Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. We are trial streaming. I am going to get this trial pulled up right now. Sorry for the delay. I've had a hectic morning, but that's okay. That's okay. We're here. People have been waiting for another trial, I guess. I actually have two. I'm not going to lie. Not had the time to do it, so that's nice. Always great when that happens. Oh, we are up, and we're up on my favorite channel. Here we go.
Exactly what I tried to
avoid. Oh, baby.
But I have to read it now first in order to figure out
read it, Judge.
What the next thing we need to do is. So
there we go. We got a cut cage. Wait a minute. Where'd the volume go? Where you at, volume? Where you is? It just paused. It's not me that's paused it. It's hold on, let me refresh. I don't want to do that. Cancel that. Why you do this? Oh, there we go. Okay, so see, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. All right. Okay, this is the trial of the Queen of Wisconsin, Taylor Schabusiness. What a business. What a business. This is what he was referring to when he said what the business. I hope everybody knows that. This is the Queen of Wisconsin, Taylor Schabusiness. She will love you hard. She will love you to pieces. And you'll never be the same. You'll never be the same after a ride with the Queen. Let's see. Here we go. Like a praying mantis. She is. Here we go. So here's what the rundown on this case is. If you don't know, Taylor Schabusiness, the beauty in the picture there, she was on a date with homeboy up in the corner where he belongs, and she decided that while they were engaged in intercourse of a type that she would go ahead and I mean, some people want to blame meth or whatever, but maybe it was just good sense. I'm not sure. She decided she would chop his head off and dismember his body and do a bunch of crazy stuff. So look, if you're going to go for it, you got to go for it. So yeah, that's what was going on with Taylor Schabusiness. And some people are critical of the decisions that she made that day, and that's why she's on trial. But we're here to see just how controlling the government is going to be over private sexual relationships. I mean, do we really want the government in our bedrooms like this? I thought we've been fighting against government intervention in bedrooms around this country for generations now. But no, apparently you chop one guy's head off, they got a little problem. Oh, his legs are in a crock pot box? I don't know. Why do you care? I thought we had a Fourth Amendment, some little bit of privacy here, but no, government nosing itself into every situation. Oh my goodness. So anyway, real quick acknowledgement. I know a couple of my friends are streaming this trial as well, and that is perfectly fine with me. I no skin off of my teeth, which you only have skin on your teeth if you're Chandler Halderson after a nice fulfilling meal. If they're doing that, I'm streaming this trial. People are welcome to join me or not. I have no particular agenda, malice, animus, whatever, towards anyone. I was supposed to be on Legal Vice's stream earlier today, but my my morning got stretched out and I was not able to join him. So my bad for that. I did apologize I apologized to Jeff, and I was trying to get home in time, but I could not.
And what
here
other
we go.
positions have you held at the Brown County Medical Examiner's Office?
I started off as the Deputy Lead Medical Legal Investigator. I then moved up to the Lead Medical Legal Investigator and have since been moved into the Director of Operations position.
And what was your position with the Brown County Medical Examiner's Office in February of 2022?
In February of 2022, I would have been the Lead Medical Legal Investigator.
And what is a medical legal investigator?
Guys, you can fix her.
You could see us almost as a nurse in the hospital. We're the eyes and ears for the doctor, for our forensic pathologist. So we do that initial investigation.
What the fuck is going on? Okay, we're gonna.
And then that is reviewed by.
Do doctors
our
not have
chief
eyes
medical
and ears
examiner.
in Wisconsin?
And you talked about a forensic pathologist. What does the forensic pathologist generally do?
So generally, a forensic pathologist, if they're board certified, they are the ones that actually perform the autopsies and oversee all of the investigations the office does.
At the time of this event in February of 2022, who was the chief medical examiner that you were working under in Brown County?
There was a transition between chiefs, but the medical examiner that I was
Transitions
working
are getting
with on this
out of
case,
control.
Was Dr. Vincent Tranquita. I apologize for not remembering if he was the chief at the time because there was a switch over in leadership.
But Dr. Tranquita was the forensic pathologist who was assigned to this case?
Correct.
And at the time of this event in February of 2022, which office was Dr. Tranquita stationed out of?
Dr. Tranquita worked for the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office. At the time, Brown County had a contract with Dane County for.
They're not saying
oversight from
Chunkita, you
forensic
bigots.
pathologists, and they provided our autopsy services as well.
It's Trankita. That's me
not
as a
currently
woman.
The setup, is that right?
No, we have since hired our own chief medical examiner who is a forensic pathologist. So we are now independently performing autopsies here in Brown County.
But as it existed in February of 2022, that was the standard practice for Brown County, correct? To use the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office for autopsies?
Correct.
And talk generally about the process that you use when you are called out to the death scene by law enforcement.
Generally, it can happen in different ways, but the most common would be that the 911 dispatch center, they give the on-call investigator a call and they let them know what they are responding to and where the address of where they're needed. Sometimes we get calls directly from detectives. Sometimes we get call from the hospital or a hospice agency. But for scene responses, most commonly it's through the 911 dispatch center to the on-call investigator.
And on this particular day, February 23rd of 2022, what was the process for you to get called out to the scene at 829 Stony Brook?
So that morning, I believe a call was placed to our office by a detective with the Green Bay Police Department, just informing our office of the situation. That call was taken by the on-call investigator that was in the office at the time. And the policy at that, which is still in place, is that they are to then notify the lead medical legal investigator, which would have been me at that time, of such a case.
And once you were notified, what did you do?
I then tried to gather a bit more information. Things were very preliminary at that stage, and we asked to be notified once they were ready for us.
And did you receive follow-up notification from the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes.
And what did you do then before going out to the scene?
Before going to the scene, I just made sure that I had all of my supplies. We had a general understanding of what the case was that we were going to. So I made sure that I had all of the supplies I may need. And then
I will get the super chats in just a second, guys.
Using the vehicle, I would have traveled to the
Letting the
scene.
testimony happen here.
And were you or was law enforcement responsible for notifying then the actual medical examiner or the forensic pathologist?
I was actually, when I was initially notified that morning, I would have notified Dane County's Director of Operations, and they in turn would have notified Dr. Tranquita, the forensic pathologist, that his response would be needed. And we kept in touch that morning with regards to a general time. Seeing that they would be coming up from Madison, we just wanted to make sure that we timed things out correctly. And obviously with law enforcement needing to do what they need to do prior to us coming, we were just waiting for that notification when they were ready for us.
Do you know about what time you arrived on scene that morning?
It was probably around 11 o'clock in the morning.
When you arrived on scene, what did you do?
I would have introduced myself to police officers on scene, and I believe I placed PPE on and entered the living room area of the residence, where there were various members of law enforcement, and they briefed me on the scene and what information they had at that point.
What was your understanding about the information law enforcement had collected at that point?
Good way to ask that question to avoid
My
hearsay.
understanding was that the head of a male individual had been found in the basement, and that they had reason to believe that there were additional human remains.
Had he asked what they told you? There's a hearsay objection. So
informed me that they had a
what was your
suspect at that
understanding?
time, and they informed me that there might be a secondary location for human remains as well.
And you mentioned PPE. What is PPE and what is the purpose of using it?
Sure, I apologize. PPE would generally be personal protective equipment. So we use that both to protect ourselves as well as the integrity of the scene. So in this case, it would have been a Tyvek suit or a bunny suit, which would have been
A bunny suit? That sounds like a
included
Halloween
booties, and it goes
costume.
all over, and it even has a hood around your face. So, and
The hood
I
around
would
your
have-
face?
Once we went down into the basement, I would have been
I didn't
wearing
know this was
gloves. I
Mississippi.
probably was not wearing gloves initially.
So did you make your way toward the basement of that residence prior to the arrival
Just a
of Dr.
dude.
Tranquita?
Dude, did you do
Correct.
that?
We tried to make the pronouncement of death as soon as possible from when we arrived. So once we gathered information,
Pronouncement of death sounds like
once
a
I
metal
discussed
band.
information with law enforcement, at least, then I would have proceeded down to the basement just for a cursory view of what the situation was, as well as to pronounce death.
And were you able to do that based on your initial observations on scene?
Yes.
And again, is that something?
Dude, what is... Man, they are not, they're not having a great stream.
Identifying information about the person that was deceased?
Yes, law enforcement provided the presumptive identification at that point, provided a name and date of birth, and we later then also asked for additional photographic evidence of for identification purposes for comparing.
And did the deceased have any distinct marks that allowed you to easily identify him?
Yes, he had a tattoo on his. I forget which side it was, but on one of the temporal regions on the side of your head here, it would have been a question mark.
I'll get the court TV stream
And
pulled
after
up.
identification was made, what did you do? After pronouncement,
We'll
and
make a nice
identification were made,
transition.
What did you do?
I would have backed out the scene and waited outside until Dr. Tranquita arrived so that we would do the rest of our duties together.
After Dr. Tranquita arrived, describe what steps you took at that point.
So we were working very closely with the Green Bay Police Department's forensic science unit with this case. So we were moving around the scene kind of together. And the first thing that we would have approached would have
Hold on just a second. We're getting switched.
pronouncement of death as soon as possible from when we arrived. So once we gathered information,
Way
once
better.
I discussed information with law enforcement, at least, then I would have proceeded down to the basement just for a cursory view of what the situation was, as well as to pronounce death.
And were you able to do that based on your initial observations on scene?
Yes.
And again, is that something that it's typical that you would do if you're able to prior to the arrival of the doctor?
Yes.
And were you able to collect identifying information about the person that was deceased?
Yes, law enforcement provided the presumptive identification at that point, provided a name and date of birth, and we later then also asked for additional photographic evidence of for identification purposes for comparing.
And did the deceased have any distinct marks that allowed you to easily identify him?
Yes, he had a tattoo on his. I can't believe I forget which side it was, but on one of the temporal regions on the side of your head here. It
hoping it was going to be funnier.
Question mark.
He's got a tattoo on his.
And after identification was made, what did you do? After pronouncement and identification were made, what did you do?
I would have backed out the scene and waited outside until Dr. Tranquita arrived so that we would do the rest of our duties together.
After Dr. Tranquita arrived, describe what steps you took at that point.
So we were working very closely with the Green Bay Police Department's forensic science unit with this case. So we were moving around the scene kind of together. And the first thing
She says I'm like an airline pilot.
The bucket with the human head in it.
And where was that located?
It was located downstairs in the basement, just to the right as you came down the stairs into the finished portion of the basement, which seemed to be used as a bedroom. So there was a bucket at the bottom of those stairs to the right.
Once you made contact with that bucket, or what would be essentially the first container with human remains, can you describe the
That's
process
that judge similar
that you used in
simultaneously
order to
look wide awake
collect
and
that
dead ass
evidence?
tired at the same time.
So we
Eyes like this, big bags underneath.
made the decision to use smaller body bags. So essentially would be infant and child body bags. So we would have placed a body bag out for the bucket. It was a infant-sized body bag with a evidence sheet laid over it. We
Damn.
would have then removed what we found in the bucket individually, photographed it. Once it was documented and photographed, we would have wrapped the evidence sheet up and then placed that in the body bag and closed that body bag. And then written on the body bag as to, we decided to label the body bags as to which container they were
Yeah,
in.
that seems like a good idea. No, wing it with
After,
Ethan. She did not kill her
processing
kid.
that
She
first
killed
container,
her
container
lover.
one, the bucket,
At least
what did you
temporary
do
lover.
then?
We moved on to the next container, which we suspected had human remains in it. There was, I believe it's a blue bag, was the second container that we looked at from the outside. Well, let me back it up. The
Back
blue
that
bag
thing
would
up.
have been on a dresser in front of the bed in the basement. And there seemed to be what looked like some human tissue on the outside of the bag. And so we decided to focus in on that bag next.
And did you use a similar process with that particular container?
Correct. We took the container and put it onto the evidence sheet that we had laid out with the body bag we had laid out. And we would have slowly emptied what we found in that bag while we were documenting and photographing what was found.
And once you processed the blue bag, was your attention then drawn to a subsequent container?
Yes, we then focused in on a backpack, which was a pink and black backpack that was at the bottom of the bed, the foot of the
Oh,
bed.
yeah. What was
on
in
the
there?
floor. It seemed to have some blood staining on the outside. So we focused in on that bag.
You
next.
focused in on
And
it? What did
I
you
should
find
ask,
when
with
you
respect to the blue bag
focused
as well,
in on it?
Did you find a substantial amount of human remains within that receptacle?
The blue receptacle?
Correct.
Yes, we did find some human remains in the blue receptacle.
And then how about the pink backpack?
The pink backpack, so we would have done the same process. We had a body bag laid out with an evidence sheet. We placed the bag on the sheets, and then we unzipped, starting with the front zip towards the back, and we unzipped each zipper and would remove whatever we found and document and photograph that.
If there are items other than human remains that are found within those containers that might have evidentiary value, what was done with those items?
So if there are any items other than the human remains, the medical examiner's office, our purview is the human remains. So if there are other items of evidentiary value or possible evidentiary value, that's generally collected by law enforcement.
Okay. And were there other items of evidentiary value that were found within those containers while you were there?
Yes, we found knives in. I don't remember if all of the bags had knives, but we found multiple knives throughout the bags.
And those are items that would have been within the purview of law enforcement.
Correct. We would have taken them out. We would have photographed them ourselves. And as I said, we were working very closely with the forensic science unit from Green Bay. So they were taking photos at the same time we were. And then they would have collected those knives.
So after you found and processed the human remains that were contained in the pink and black backpack, what was the next container that you noted?
The next container we moved to was a blue tote bin that was on the floor at the head of the bed, and it had a bunch of laundry or I can't remember if it's clothing or blankets, but something on top of it.
Right.
And
As one
they
does.
seemed to be a small amount of blood on the outside of the tote bin, and so we would have moved our attention to that at that stage, and we slowly removed what was on top until we could see what was in the tote bin.
And what did you note in the tote bin?
In the tote bin, we found
Slowly removed what's
a
on top was
substantial
what
amount of blood at the
she
bottom
did to
of
the victim.
The tote bin. We also found a torso of a human male.
Oh shit. Just a
In terms of
torso
the
though.
other significant body parts that would have been located within the tote bin. Do you recall what was located within the tote?
So the torso with the arms attached, there would have been other fragmented remains. There was some muscle tissue and
Say some meat.
certain organs.
Certain organs. Which certain organs?
So those are the 4 containers that we've discussed already.
I
In
can't
addition
wait
to
for
the 4
cross-exam.
containers, were there any other containers located in the room that had a substantial amount of human remains?
No. There were some other containers or some other backpacks that we peeked in, but there was no other remains found in the basement.
And so you found remains in 4 separate containers in the areas that were not the containers. So in general, in the living space in the basement, what were your observations about the living space?
So one of my first observations, I guess, would have been that as you walk into the basement, there really wasn't a significant amount of blood that we could see as you walked in. We would have later noted, once we moved some things off the bed, that there was what appeared to be blood staining on the mattress, and perhaps some small little pieces of tissue that were suspected to be human tissue in the carpeted area. But there was a shower in a laundry room nearby, and there seemed to be, again, some small pieces of what could have been human tissue.
Is it fair to say that relative to the amount of damage to the body that you observed, there was not a lot of blood or tissue that was readily available outside of the containers?
Correct. I would definitely say that I would have thought there would have been more blood on the scene, outside of those
Look,
containers.
You got to
And
keep
from
it
a medical
clean.
legal standpoint, what is the potential significance of that?
Objection calls for speculation.
There you go.
I think it calls for a professional opinion.
Foundation.
Overruled. Go ahead and answer if you can.
Ooh.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. So from a medical legal standpoint, when you see as much damage to the body as you noted, but
From
then
a
don't
medical
see as much
legal standpoint,
tissue or blood throughout the room, is there any potential significance from an
It's a weird
investigative
question.
standpoint based on your training and experience?
objection calls for a legal
there
conclusion.
are various
I
things
guess.
that it might spark me to think. One of the things would be, did it happen here? Another thing would be how. Would make me think, how did this happen? How did this take place? In such a way that the blood was collected, and not all of the blood I would expect to have been in the human body was necessarily in that tote bin or amongst the other containers.
Well, can you really
So
collect
it
all
would
of the
just spark,
blood?
questions as to how this would have occurred.
Was there a goblet nearby?
Did you locate all of the significant body parts that you were looking for that were associated with the deceased at that scene on Stony Brook?
Yes.
No, you did not.
Did you know if parts were missing?
Yes.
What did you know was missing from the body?
Oh,
So
okay.
as we were going, we were trying to make sure that at least the remains that we were finding were consistent with one.
I guess they had already found the
person.
legs at this
And,
time. They got the legs
by
first.
the time we were done processing the human remains in the basement, we seemed to be missing a significant portion of the lower limbs.
And did you obtain any information about where those items may potentially be located?
We were informed that they may potentially
Objection
be.
Objection
Hearsay,
hearsay. Nice.
Not as offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. I'm offering it to support how she later goes to a different location, how she gets there.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
We were informed that there were potential human remains in a van that had been towed by the Green Bay Police Department to their evidence storage unit.
Did you ultimately respond to that location?
He literally
Yes.
was offering it for the
And
truth of the
who went
matter
with you to
asserted, but
the,
okay.
evidence storage unit.
Dr.
Doesn't
Tranquita would
matter.
have been with me too, as well as various members of the Green Bay Police Department.
And upon arrival at the storage unit, did you continue to use your PPE and all of the other evidence processing techniques that you discussed earlier?
Correct. We would have used a
Make sure to
new
always
set
use
of
your PPE,
once
boys.
we arrived at that location.
And what did you do once you arrived at that location?
So we initially just took photographs of the outside of the vehicle. I don't believe that the police had processed the vehicle yet at all. They were waiting to do that in conjunction with us. So we kind of peered in, just noting what was in the vehicle, and then we would have opened the doors and the trunk to take a look just at a general view of what was in the vehicle.
And did you locate anything of significance or any human remains within the vehicle?
Yes, we ultimately did find a crock pot box that had human remains in the box.
Do you recall specifically what you recovered in the crock pot?
We would
Box.
have recovered the full set of we would have recovered parts of both lower limbs.
And were those then collected using a similar methodology as what you described at Stony Brook?
Correct. So we took the crock pot box outside of the van and we placed that on some paper material next to our evidence sheet. And then we unpacked what was found in the crock pot box and documented and photographed that as we had previously.
And what did you do once you packaged the human remains at the scene at Green Bay Evidence?
So we would have closed the evidence sheet, put it in the body bag, sealed that body bag, and transported the remains to our the Brown County Medical Examiner's cooler.
And where is that located? Or was it at the time?
Yeah, we have changed location since, but at the time we had a temporary cooler out at the Brown County Highway Department.
And once it's placed in storage at the temporary cooler, what is the process for moving the remains to another location?
So while we were contracted with Dane County, seeing that all our examinations or autopsies would take place down in Madison, so Dane County, as part of their contract with us, had a transport van and an individual that was hired as a driver. So they would have come up and collected the body bags from us, and it's a cooled van, and then that's transported down to Dane County for further examination.
And I should backtrack because I don't think I asked this question with respect to Stony Brook. What happened with the remains that were taken into the possession of the medical examiner's office at the Stony Brook address?
We ate them.
For the home address, we, as I described previously, we had packaged each container into a body bag each. Those
Put 'em in a
smaller
body
bags
bag,
were then all
Johnny.
placed together in one larger adult-sized body bag, and that body bag was sealed and dated, signed, timed. The policy of our office is to have funeral homes assist with adult-sized human remains, and so we would have contacted the closest funeral home just for assistance with transport.
She's just thinking,
And
I know one thing that
believe
wasn't
the closest funeral
adult-sized.
home would be Blaney Funeral Home. So they came to the scene, and because usually I would follow with the funeral home to the cooler, but in this instance, when we knew we had another scene to go to, I had our morgue technician at the time. She came to the scene and then made that transport with Blaney Funeral Home for us so that I could go to the next scene.
And the information about the transportation logs that are associated with the remains, is that something that in your current role you have access to those records, and that's a record maintained in
It's
the
a
regular course
meaty
of business?
prosecutor.
The information regarding transport?
Correct.
Correct. We do document that.
And do you know if that was documented in this case?
Yes,
As part of your work in this case, did you prepare a report?
I did.
Have you reviewed that report prior to court here today?
Yes.
By the way, if anybody's curious, again, I will be streaming pretty much this entire trial. It's supposed to mostly just be this week. That's the anticipated timeline from it. I wasn't able to stream the beginning part because I had an unexpected thing come up this morning that prevented me from doing it. But the next several days should pretty much be wall-to-wall coverage on it. So you can tell your friends, tell your enemies. Everybody can come watch it here in harmonious wonder. Or you can watch it on any of my friends' channels as well. Legal Vices is streaming this. Joe is streaming this. I believe Kurt is streaming this. You know what you get here, though. You know what you get. You get, I'm the only person who's going to defend this queen and what she did. The guy got exactly what he was bargaining for, and the government has no right to intrude themselves into our bedrooms. We must protect our privacy at all costs. I mean, if you can't carry a set of human legs in a crock pot box when you're driving around with your laundry, is this even America anymore? I don't think so. Real quick, Isis Donictom says, hey, Raggeds, dealing with a legal class for my business offshoot
that
degree.
Used to be the report. It would be the face sheet of our medical examiner's office report, as well as the portion of the report that is mine.
The objection.
No objection.
Floor is received.
Show a wide shot again. Get this attorney in there. So it's just one.
Exhibit 5 is a photograph of the larger adult-sized body bag that we would have placed those smaller body bags within at the Stony Brook address. It is labeled as Shad Therian, and there are the bag appears to be sealed, as well as initials that say sealed by PS at 1506 on 2/23/22.
And the next exhibit, what is that?
Did you guys ever see The Fifth Element?
And the following exhibit, did you?
Prosecutors
describe that
shaped
one as
like
well?
those aliens in The Fifth
Exhibit
Element.
6 is a child-sized body bag. This would have been at the Green Bay storage unit location, which had the remains found in the crockpot box. This is sealed, and it is labeled as container number 5, crockpot box van. And by the seal number, it says sealed by Petra at 1634 on 2/23/22.
Mayor, I would move for the admission of exhibits 5 and 6 as well, and I would ask for permission to publish 5 and 6 via the screen.
I would move for the admission that this is a malicious prosecution. Bigot.
No objection to admission of exhibits 5 and 6, but I would object to publication, Your Honor. It's already been described.
There you go.
Overrule the objection.
Yeah, not gonna work, homie. This Isis Donicdom says, just wanted to send a thank you because your streams have somehow actually stuck with me and made learning this junk easier. Thanks for doing your thing. Hey, thanks, buddy. Good luck. Brian
Schwab,
Allman.
Does the screen, I think there's a screen down in
no.
front here as well.
Oh, no.
Does the screen accurately depict what is contained in exhibit 5?
Correct.
And then I think if it's toward the right-hand side of the screen or the photo where it indicates the name and then the information that you indicated about the date and the sealing. That's toward the right side of the photo. Is that correct?
Correct. Near the zipper there, but with the seal.
Okay. And the purpose of the seal and signature again?
It's to document chain of custody, essentially. When I sealed that bag, and then once it gets to Dane County for autopsy, does that seal tag still match? There's numbers on that seal tag. So that is documented both on scene and then again prior to autopsy. Before cutting that seal, they make sure that it is still that same seal that I initially had placed, and they document it too.
And then the photograph that's now depicted on the screen, is that Exhibit 6?
Yes,
And again, contains the information that you indicated about what is contained inside and then the signature and seal.
correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Examination, Mr. Freilich.
Ms. Schwab, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Different parts of the body
Is
of
it a
the
good
deceased
afternoon?
were in different areas, correct?
Correct.
Some parts were at the Stony Brook Lane property, correct?
Correct.
In the basement.
Correct.
And then some other body parts were inside of a gold Town and Country minivan, correct?
Correct.
And that minivan was found in the parking lot of Eastman Avenue apartment complex.
That would have been found by law enforcement. The street name does ring a bell, but they would have towed it from that location that they found it to the storage room or storage warehouse that I responded to.
You saw the minivan at the police storage unit, correct?
Correct.
And that was with Dr. Tranchita.
Correct.
Is it Tranquita?
Tranquita.
Okay, thank you. You were given some information as to what may or may not have happened at the 829 Stony Brook Lane property, correct?
Correct.
And you went there for the very first time on February 23rd of 2022?
Correct.
What time did you get to the Stony Brook home?
Would have been around 11 a.m.
In the morning?
Correct.
And you were let in by law enforcement?
Yes.
Who let you in, do you know?
I do. It would have been a detective. I do not
Would have
remember
been?
which there were multiple detectives at the scene.
Did you talk to the owners of the house?
Not at that time, no. They
Jim,
were
I
not
think
present.
someone said her
When you
accent
got
is
there, you
South
already had your
African.
PPE gear on?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
And then did you immediately go down into the basement?
Not immediately, no.
Okay, how long did it take before you went into the basement?
Probably about 15 to 20 minutes.
What took so long before you went down in the basement?
They were briefing me on what had occurred, and they were making sure that I was okay to go down there because they were processing, I believe, already. So we would just have been discussing what had been found so far, what information we had so far prior to taking me down,
So you had to be cleared, so to speak?
so to speak.
Okay. And when you went down the stairs,
I don't mean to be
what was
rude.
the first thing you looked at?
As I went down the stairs,
Kind of looks like
I
her
would
face
have
is retreating
turned to
into
my
her
right,
neck.
which would have been a finished portion that seemed to be used as mixed use area, bedroom type area, and I would have probably turned my attention to the bucket that was at the bottom of the stairs that I had been made aware of.
Okay, you looked at the bucket and the contents?
Correct.
Downstairs, fair to say that if you go to the right, it's kind of like a living area where you could sleep or watch TV or hang out, correct?
Correct.
You see like a Pac-Man game down there, video game?
I remember some sort of console game, but yeah,
You see a round table down there?
yeah,
Lots of clutter, lots of things.
yes.
Well, it's easy to lose body parts in a place like that.
With
I mean,
regards to the bucket, what color was it?
Black.
And you did your investigation with regards to the contents of the bucket, correct?
Correct.
When you got there,
did you suspect the
scene
bucket
been
first because it was
disturbed in
black?
any
You
way
racist.
From what you know?
From what I know, there was a disturbance probably when the bucket was found, but I don't believe anything else had really been disturbed. I believe Green Bay Police Department perhaps had started putting out their little evidence markers, but they hadn't necessarily removed any remains or as far as I was made aware, removed any evidentiary items.
When you were at the Stony Brook property, did you call Dr. Tranquita?
I would have called him prior to going to the house.
Did he give you any directions on what you should do or shouldn't do?
He told me not to lick the
I
body.
think the directions would have come through their director of operations, and we have standing policies that in cases where homicide might be suspected, that we go into the scene, pronounce death, exit the scene, get some basic information for them, and wait for their arrival before proceeding with any further examination.
After you looked at the bucket and the contents of the bucket, did you pronounce death then, or?
Yes.
Okay. What was the time of death?
I would have to check my report.
Was it sometime after 11 a.m.?
Yes.
Did you know of any other concerns that were in the basement after you looked at the bucket?
I was notified that they suspected that there were human remains in other receptacles or other containers within the basement.
Okay. So in the basement, there was like either a dresser or TV stand. Is that fair?
Correct.
And there was I think you said a blue bag on the dresser or on the TV stand?
Among other things, yes, a blue bag was noted.
The blue bag, was it a Jimmy Choo like duffel bag that you can zip and has handles on it?
I'm unsure what the brand name was, but yeah, it was a rectangular shaped blue bag with handles.
I want James
Something
Taylor
you
to
could
write a
put
song
clothes in
about
or
this
something,
crime.
correct?
Yeah.
And where was that located?
That was located on the dresser that was in front of the bed.
Was there a TV on this dresser?
I don't remember if there was.
Any evidence of drugs on the dresser?
Law enforcement had pointed out some items on the dresser that they believed to be drugs.
Meth?
I do believe that they said that they thought it was.
They thought it was. Did they try it?
Pipes?
Yes.
With regards to the bag that we're talking about with the handles, you had gloves on at the time?
Correct.
When did you put your gloves on?
Sorry, could you
When did you
repeat?
put your gloves on? Do you remember?
What did I put my gloves
No,
on?
when?
Oh,
did you put them-
when?
Yeah.
We would have put gloves on in the basement prior to touching any items.
Okay. So you had the gloves on before you inspected the black container or bucket?
Correct.
She always puts her gloves on before
Did
inspecting
anybody
black
assist
things.
you with removing items from the duffel bag?
Dr. Tranquita and I were removing the items together.
Had you ever seen anything like this before in your experience?
I have seen mutilation,
Oh, damn.
but nothing to this extent before.
Never
I've
saw a
been
head in the bucket,
waiting.
correct?
Correct.
For a girl like you, coming
so
off on my
After you looked at the
lips.
bag on the dresser, then is that when you turned your attention to the backpack?
Yes, after the blue bag on the dresser, we would have then turned our attention to a black and pink backpack that was on the floor at the foot of the bed.
Now, the bed in this basement, were there mattresses that were stacked on top of each other, or what can you tell me about that?
I remember that they were 3 items. I don't know if it's 2 mattresses and 1 base versus 2 bases and 1 mattress, but 3 things stacked as a bed.
Okay. It wasn't like a headboard and a footboard, correct?
No.
Just basically mattresses, correct?
Yeah.
Joey Meatballs,
And,
meth
you
doesn't
went over
make
to this
you
backpack, right?
chop someone's
Was
head
it an
off
Under
and
Armour
rape
backpack?
their corpse. Like,
I would.
that's
probably
something
have
deep
to
inside that
check
the meth
photographs
brings
for the
out.
brand.
But it had some colors to it.
It
Black.
had,
Did it have colors like black and pink or
yes,
something?
it was black and pink, and there was some red staining on the outside,
Why did you focus on that?
probably because of the red staining.
Did you discover that, or did someone else point that to your attention?
When we were walking around just looking at the scene together, it would have been in conjunction with law enforcement.
Okay.
And we would have, tried to lift it and It seemed suspiciously heavy for a backpack.
And did you have to unzip that Under Armour backpack?
Yes, we unzipped each zip from front to back and looked at the contents.
And you removed the contents from that Under Armour backpack?
Correct.
And what'd you do with it?
We placed everything that we found within the backpack on an evidence sheet that was then placed into a body bag.
And you took some photographs, right?
Correct.
What were these items in that Under
This
Armour backpack?
photograph.
There were various fragments of human remains.
Tissue?
Yes, human tissue.
I think the other container you said was a blue tote.
Yes,
And where was that?
that would be on the floor at what I consider the head of the bed.
Was it by the wall?
Yes, between the bed and the wall.
Was that area of the basement kind of dark?
Yes.
The lighting wasn't very good?
No.
And there was items on top of this tote,
Yes. If I remember correctly, it was laundry items.
blankets?
It could have been blankets. It could have been clothes, or a combination thereof.
And did you see some blood on the outside of the tote?
Yes.
Would you say it was a teal tote?
Yes.
And are you the one that took the blanket or the clothes off of the tote?
I believe we were doing that in conjunction with a detective from Green Bay Police Department.
Do you remember the name of the detective that was with you?
There were multiple. It was Detective Cassie Pakala and Phil Scanlon that were mainly assisting.
They were both there?
Correct.
John the Conqueror, this is cross-examination. He can lead the witness here.
Was that tote
In fact, he's supposed to.
difficult to see?
No,
Would it be difficult to see if you were coming down the stairs as you get off the last stair?
not necessarily. No.
But it was towards the back of the basement, is that correct?
Yes.
Me and Mark Richards
So
on this
the
case.
black bucket, the duffel bag with the two handles.
I don't
the
know if
Under
Mark
Armour
Richards
backpack,
would call it
and
a
the blue
black
tote.
bucket.
Those items apparently had human remains in them.
Correct.
And you didn't know whose remains they belonged to, did you?
They had given us the presumptive ID, and especially the head, we had already, by use of that tattoo and the booking photograph provided by Green Bay Police Department, we were fairly certain that we had the correct identity. And seeing at that point that inventory that we'd been doing so far had only indicated remains that were consistent with one human male. At that point, we were comfortable that these remains were all belonging to the same person.
Who was able to confirm that? Was that done later when the remains were transported to Dayton County?
Correct. That would have been a more thorough inventory of all of the fragments collected to make sure that these essentially complete a full human male.
So the full identification was not done at Stony Brook. It was done in the medical examiner's office. And
Putting them together like a puzzle.
Ultimately,
What did you find in the bucket? I'm sorry. I had to.
And
I'm sorry.
fair to say that both you and the detectives had a lot of questions on what occurred and how this could occur. True?
yes.
And everybody was trying to figure out what happened. Is that true?
Yes.
Chain of custody was followed.
As far as the human remains that I was involved with, yes.
And the bucket, the duffel bag, the Under Armour backpack, and the blue tote, were those all taken from Stony Brook, from the Stony Brook Lane home, and brought to the police department for further examination?
I did not remove them myself, so it was likely removed by the Green Bay Police Department. But we, as the medical examiner's office, do not collect those sorts of items.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you very much.
Did the YouTube chat die?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you can step down. Thank you.
Did it?
You can handle those exhibits.
Can anybody check and see if the YouTube chat's dead for anybody else?
State's next witness.
Because I'm not seeing it. Anybody on locals or whatever? It stopped? Yeah, it stopped for me, and I can't even type anything.
Okay, if you want to step right up over here. And before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. No matter
Wild.
what, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Yeah, YouTube, if you're there and you see this,
MICH.
go ahead and throw a like on the stream because I can't see the chat.
And with that, the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
Of course, I am also live on Rumble. You're
Thank
welcome
you.
to join there.
Can
Oh,
you
there's
tell
chat.
us how you're employed?
I'm
It's
employed
back.
with the City of Green Bay, the Green Bay Police Department, in the forensics unit.
And how long have you been employed with the forensics unit?
Almost 5 years.
It happened right at my
And
bucket
can you outline
joke.
for us what sort of training you've received
Bastards.
for your current occupation?
I have an associate's degree in forensic science. I am a certified crime scene analyst.
Your
through
associate's
the
degree?
International Association
Okay.
for Identification. And I have various other trainings related to crime scenes, including crime scene photography, alternate light source, and shooting recon.
And you've been sort of working in that capacity for the last 5 years?
Yes.
So can you outline for us, I guess, what are some of the duties you're commonly asked to perform for your department?
We were asked to process crime scenes. We would photograph, do videotape, search for evidence, and collect evidence.
And you kind of use the we. Are there other members of your
I'm always
team
baffled
that you
by
commonly
human
work with?
anatomy.
Yes.
And who are they?
Kristen McMullen and Bailey Andre.
And is it commonly the case that you sort of work in tandem with those people in the performance of your duties?
Yes,
For instance, if one person's photographing things, the other's collecting it, things like that.
correct.
So then I want to ask you about February 23rd of 2022. Were you working in that same capacity on that day?
Yes,
Do you recall responding to a residence on Stony Brook Lane on that day?
yes, I do.
The good guys
and,
are the
was another
defense.
member
The
of your
bad
team with you?
guys are the
Yes.
prosecution
And who was that?
always.
Forensic specialist Bailey Andre.
And what sort of information did you learn when you arrived at that residence?
That there was a body part located in a bucket.
And I guess at that point, that's the sum of the information you had at that point.
Yes.
What did you do at that point?
Once the warrant was signed, I was able to videotape the exterior and interior of the scene. And then Bailey Andre did the photographs, and then I labeled the evidence.
So at some point when you're at the Stony Brook residence, are you involved in evidence collection?
Yes.
And can you outline for us what goes into you collecting an item of evidence?
Once we locate a piece of evidence, we would label it with either a evidence placard, or if it was a swab that needs to be collected, it would be labeled with a sticker. So each exhibit collected would have its own separate number or exhibit. Then it would be photographed, and then it would be collected.
And what sort of outfit or attire are you wearing when you're collecting these items of evidence?
We had a
What are you
Tyvek suit
wearing?
and rubber gloves.
And that's commonly in your practice what you wear during processing crime scenes.
These type of scenes, correct?
Is this the other
And you did
prosecutor's
so in this case
son?
too?
Yes.
So you mentioned part of what you were doing was collecting items of evidence. Were you also taking swabs of various surfaces as well?
Yes.
And what sort of areas did you swab in this case?
If we located any kind of red substance that could possibly be blood, that was swabbed.
And did you collect a fair number of those swabs in the basement?
Yes.
Those were items that you were responsible for collecting and maintaining?
Correct.
Yeah.
Can you generally for us describe the process of what we mean when we're using the word swab?
Like a
It's
Q-tip.
like a Q-tip with a cap on it. It's in a separate package, so each swab is individually packaged, it's sterile. We typically have
business's
an assistant
boyfriend was
help us,
individually
so if I were
packaged.
swabbing, I would have clean gloves on and I would not touch anything. And in this case, forensic specialist Bailey Andre assisted me with collecting these swabs, and she would open the package of the swab, and then I would grab it without touching anything else.
Klaus
She
Schwab.
placed a couple drops of distilled water on the swab without touching the distilled water to the tip of the swab itself to prevent contamination. And then I would swab the area of interest.
Her neck looks like the middle of a corn dog. I
In
can't.
addition to collecting those swabs of various surfaces, what sorts of items of evidence did you collect as well?
I collected a Clorox wipe container, a Pantene shampoo container. There was 2 dog choke collars I collected, a wooden box,
Axe. Very
dildo,
Wisconsin.
A shout bottle.
Shout.
I guess as
Shout.
you're kind of going through the
Get
scene,
it all
has
out.
it become apparent certain items
These are blood stains
located in
we
the
can
basement may have some
do
evidentiary value.
without.
Yes.
Come out.
I want to ask about some of those in particular. You mentioned there were 2 dog collars that were located.
Correct.
And were those items that you collected and took into evidence?
Yes.
Tom Grawl says, the next few days, I will text you the design for your barrel top. If you approve, I'll start CNC on it. I take it you want the logo in green. Yeah, brother. That sounds awesome. Thank you so much. Holy Diver says, damn, what's her spirit animal? The praying mantis. Yes. Nix Hex says, hey, Nikki, do you know where I can find more details of the events of this case? Yes, I'll be explaining them at a break. I've never heard of it until today, but it sounds juicy. It definitely was. Also, have you watched The X-Files? Some of it, not all of it. But yes, I'll be, when there's an adequate break, I'll be getting into what happened in this case. I covered it back when it happened. I do have a video on this.
First, do you recognize Exhibit 7?
Yes, I do.
And what do you believe that to be?
It's a silver dog choke collar located on the bar table.
And how do you know that's what's contained in that envelope?
My evidence description.
Are there also various initials on the packaging as well?
Yes, there is.
And what do those signify?
My initials and then the date it was collected.
So for instance, MMC, does that refer to yourself?
Correct.
And you noted there was an evidence description. What does that information signify?
It lists the evidence placard from the scene that I had placed next to this exhibit. It's my description, and then the location where it was located.
I'm also going to show you Exhibit 8. Do you recognize Exhibit 8?
Yes, I do.
And what do you believe Exhibit 8 to be?
Silver dog choke collar chain.
And how are you able to determine that?
Again, it has my description, my initials, and date.
So both
That choke
Exhibit
chain
7
has a
and
very
8,
interesting
were those
story.
items that you collected from the basement of the Stony Brook residence.
Yes,
And then once you collect an item of evidence, what happens to it?
it is placed in the evidence submittal room in a secure area.
Do you maintain custody and control of those items?
Yes, until it's placed into the locker.
So you take an item of evidence from a location, kind of keep it in your custody and control until it's entered into the evidence room. Is that fair?
Correct.
You went through some of the items that you collected. When you were in the basement of the Stony Brook residence, did you also collect items that were determined to be knives?
Yes,
Okay, and do you recall approximately how many knives were located in that basement?
there were 6 of them.
Do you remember where they were located?
I located 3 of them in one of the bags, 2 of them in
Bags.
the pail, the black
Kale.
bucket, And then
In Wisconsin, they can't say A's.
Teal tote.
Teal toot.
And
Oh,
those
this is
6 knives
Midwest
were
as
those,
hell.
items that you collected as well?
Yes.
She's like, God, I wish I was taking Instagram photos right now. Man, I wish I was taking Instagram photos.
I ask you about one of those in particular. First, I'll show you exhibit number 9. Do you recognize exhibit number 9?
Yes, I do.
And what do you believe that to be?
It's a knife with a silver blade and brown wood handle with red substance.
And is that an item that you collected?
Yes.
And if you recall, where was that knife collected from?
This was collected from a Jimmy Choo bag that was located on a TV stand in the basement.
And is that an item you collected from the basement and entered into evidence as well?
Yes.
Apart from your sort of description of what's contained in there, are there any other unique identifiers that helps you classify what that exhibit is?
Yes, it has my computer number, which is 543.
Okay. And then is that sort of a way for you to identify this is an item I collected?
Yes, each employee with the police department has its own 3-digit code.
And what item or exhibit number is that item, exhibit number 9 specifically?
543033.
And that's sort of a unique identifier to that item of evidence?
Correct.
Apart from your time, and before I leave actually the basement, when you're collecting these items of evidence, you mentioned Miss Andre is with you as well.
Yes,
Is she photographing essentially what you're doing?
correct.
And apart from your time in the basement of Stony Brook, did you process any other scene on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes, I did.
And where was that?
It was in our offsite storage location.
And I guess what did you process?
It was a Chrysler minivan.
At that point, it had been brought to the your, I guess, secure facility?
Yep.
Okay. And what did you observe or locate in the van?
We observed a crackpot box with a human remains in it. We collected
Ooh, the
several
accent.
swabs from the door handles of the minivan.
The crockpot box that was located, did that contain any objects?
Yes.
And what did that contain?
I'm sorry, say that.
What did that box contain?
I believe it was human remains.
Is there a
inside of
reason
it.
the lawyers aren't
Some
standing?
clothing.
Not all courtrooms have standing lawyers. Here in my county, we don't stand.
I want to then ask about
The mics are down at the table.
those
You
were
just
items
typically
we've
stay
talked
there.
about that you've collected. Was there a date that you subsequently assisted Ms. Andre with processing the specific items themselves?
Yes.
And I guess what items were processed?
The crackpot box, the Schultz bottle, the
Crackpot
Clorox
box.
wipe container, the knives.
Oh, outpost.
And by process, what do we mean?
Oh, imagine
They were
it.
photographed. The knives were swabbed and photographed with scale.
Oh, yeah. Swap me, Big
and then
Daddy.
Some items were
Oh,
dusted
God.
with fingerprints.
So when you're at a scene and you're swabbing a particular area, there are sometimes you do swabs on scene. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
But are there times then where you later, with individual objects, process them further?
Yes.
All right, and that's what was done in this case?
Correct.
It's all leading, but it doesn't matter.
While counsel's reviewing those exhibits, were you the one physically processing those exhibits on that date?
On the 25th,
Yes.
I was photographing.
Okay. And who was physically doing the swabbing of those items?
Forensic specialist Andre.
But you sort of photographed the exhibits during that process?
Attractive nuisance says rackets You don't have to do it now, but could I trouble you for some prayers? Taking the bar tomorrow, and as a career switching father, a lot is riding on my success. Thank you kindly. Of course, brother. Prayers later. Cheers for now. Cheers to you. A toast to your study and success paying off by passing the bar on your first attempt. May your memory be true. May your pencil be sharp. And may your wrist not cramp. Cheers, brother. You'll do great. You've learned this shit. You know it. Go get it.
Okay.
Do you recognize exhibits 10 through 15?
Yes.
And what are those?
Exhibit 10 is a photograph of a Clorox wipes container. Exhibit 11 is the Schott bottle.
Shout. It's
Exhibit
shout. It's just shout.
12 is a photograph of the back of the Schott bottle.
Shout.
Exhibit 13 is a photograph of a knife. Exhibit 14 is a photograph of the knife with scale. And exhibit 15 is a photograph of a crock pot box.
It's a crock
Are all
pot.
those photographs that you took in this case?
Yes.
Crock pot. Crock. The crackpot box is where Montegraph belongs.
One of the things you mentioned earlier on in some of your duties sometimes, I believe you said alternative light source.
duty.
Is that right?
Yes.
And what is that?
ALS is a light that uses specific wavelengths to detect certain kind of materials like biological fluids, like bone,
Bourne.
fingerprints, anything that's not
This
visible by
accent
the
is
naked eye.
very Wisconsin, Natalie.
Is that something that you're trained to perform in?
Yes.
Was that done in this case?
Yes.
Oh, wait,
you,
so many familiar names in
describe when and where
chat.
that was done?
Love all you guys.
It was
Thanks for
done
being
on
here.
the 24th in the basement.
And what specific areas were you looking at and utilizing that alternative light source method?
We used the ALS at in the shower at the basement, and then also near the mattress.
And what sort of, I guess, can you describe the process of ALS in terms of like what are you looking to locate?
We were looking to locate any type of biological evidence, specifically blood. When you use an ALS, the blood actually will absorb, so it'll appear as a dark color. At that point, then if we locate anything, we can swab it. It's more of a presumptive test, and those swabs will be sent to the crime lab.
Essentially, you're detecting things that you couldn't see by your naked eye.
Correct.
All right. And that was done on the 24th?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cerniski. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Furley.
Thank you. When you say the 24th, are you talking about February 24th of 2022?
Yes.
And you utilize the alternate light source method
Source.
to as part of your investigation.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit more detail about that. Is it a light or what is it? What kind of device is it?
We actually had a Schwaber on Public Safety come in with their Crime Light Auto. Holly Moss is the one who conducted that. So I just assisted her with it. It's a light that uses different wavelengths to be able to detect anything that you can't visually see by the naked eye.
What was that lady's name?
Holly Moss.
Holly Moss.
Correct.
So she was the one doing the ALS at Stony Brook in the basement, correct?
Correct.
And you were there to kind of observe?
In assist.
So on February 23rd of 2022, were you called in to help with the scene at 829 Stony Brook Lane?
Yes.
Were you called by Lieutenant Detective Brad Strouf?
I know I was called by now Captain Pagoon.
Okay. And both you and Specialist Andre met up at Stony Brook?
Correct.
Did you pull up in one of those big police evidence vans?
We arrived. Bailey, Andre, and I both arrived in our crime scene truck.
Okay. That's a special truck for crime scene processing.
Correct.
You've got all the supplies in the truck
Yes.
and you rolled right up in front of 829 Stony Brook.
Correct.
Hold up.
And then you met with Lieutenant Strauff then at
Yeah.
the house.
Correct.
And then a short time later, Detective Scanlon arrived on the scene.
That's correct.
And then you also met with Patrol Sergeant Kurt Brester, correct?
Correct.
Then Sergeant Brester gave you some information about the scene, correct?
Yes.
Gave you some details.
Correct.
And then you had consent from the homeowner to kind of process the scene, correct?
Correct.
And then Detective Scanlon gave both you and Specialist Andre kind of a walkthrough of the house, correct?
Correct.
Did you just go in the basement or did you go upstairs? Did you go in the kitchen area? Did you go through the whole house? What did you do?
I videotaped the entire house.
Okay. But when you went inside, did you go
Seems a little
inside
intrusive.
all of the areas of the house that you can?
Yes.
Okay. So you went upstairs, right?
I did. Correct.
See, I hate
And,
sitting in a suit. Look, he's got the
You
lawyer tidal
videotaped
wave
the
going.
exterior of this house, correct?
Correct.
An investigator or specialist Andre photographed the house
You
as
gotta
well.
sit like a Chad. You
Was
can't
that the
sit like this
interior?
when you're in a suit. Don't do
She
that.
did the interior and exterior as well.
Okay, so you both took video footage or you took the video footage inside and out, and she took pictures inside and out.
Correct.
Okay, trying to understand that.
Yeah.
And then were you told that you had to wait because the Detective Scanlon was waiting for a search warrant,
Correct.
and you were told to wait until that process was complete? Is that right?
Correct.
And after that, then you had the green light to go and do your investigation, correct?
Right.
At some point, Detective Cassie Pacula arrived as well.
That's correct.
So then you went upstairs and videotaped upstairs.
Correct.
Did you see anything that was concerning upstairs?
Not that I recall.
You had to turn on some lights in multiple rooms to get a better view, correct?
Correct.
And then at some point, is it fair to say that the Brown County investigator Petra Schwab came there?
Correct.
And also the forensic pathologist from Dane County, Dr. Vincent Tranquita, he also arrived.
Yes.
A lot of people at the house, correct?
Yes.
Kind of complicated. Could have messed up the scene a little bit.
There were some cell phones on the kitchen table. Those were collected, correct?
Correct.
And then you assisted with collecting these different phones, correct?
That's correct.
One maybe it was a blue one, or two blue ones and a black one.
I don't recall what colors they were.
They each had a different colored case, correct?
Yes.
Then you did some swabbing of DNAs on these cell phones, is that right?
I don't recall if I swabbed the cell phones.
You did a lot of different swabs of the door and the locks and the handles and all of that, correct?
That's correct.
You did swabs of diapers downstairs, toys, flooring,
Diapers.
correct?
Correct.
Wait. Is there a child in the house? Why are there diapers?
You entered and collected different items of evidence, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say that on the floor in the basement living area of Stony Brook, you collected a black and purple pipe,
She has a
Yes.
kid? Oh, okay.
and on a TV stand, a clear and white glass pipe,
Correct.
and on the TV stand in the basement, a green gem bag with a crystal powder,
Yes.
Hmm.
and on the TV stand in the basement, a Samsung cell phone, correct?
Correct.
I didn't realize she had a kid. My bad. That wasn't in the initial, first reports that I remember reading.
Did you go with Dr. Tranquita and look around in that basement area as you come down the stairs and go to the right?
Did I go with doctor?
Yes.
Did I go with him?
He was there.
Did you walk around though to look at things?
Yes.
Did you see a black and blue Jimmy Choo bag?
Yes.
Was that on the TV stand?
Correct.
And inside of that, was there anything in there?
There was bags and then there was some human remains in there as well.
And then, did you see a pink and black Under Armour bag?
Yes.
Where did you see that?
That was on the floor next to the bed.
And when you say bed, are you talking about stacked mattresses?
Correct.
And Dr. Tranquita moved that Under Armour bag, correct?
Yes.
And he was the one that removed the contents?
Correct.
Were you there when he was doing that?
Yes.
And where was that Under Armour bag, do you know?
It was on the floor
By a dresser or a bed?
next to the mattresses on the
Okay,
floor.
thank you. And did you list all of the different things that you observed down there?
Yes.
And gave them all exhibit numbers, correct?
Correct.
I think you mentioned finding a dildo, correct?
Correct.
Where was that?
I believe it was in a closet.
Down in the basement?
Correct.
So if you come down the stairs, if you go to the right, would you find it, or would you find it if you went to the left?
To the right.
To the right? In a closet, was it on a shelf?
It was in a brown box, wooden box.
Okay.
On a shelf.
Was the box open or closed?
I don't recall. I think it was closed.
Did you open it? Did you open the
I
box
wasn't
to
the one
see
who
what was in it?
located it.
You located it?
I didn't locate it.
Okay.
I was informed that
Okay.
it was there.
But then you
Oh.
went and take a picture of it, correct?
Correct.
And did you open it to see what was inside the box?
Yes.
Got a new poll up for you
When you
guys.
photographed it, did you take it out?
Yes.
Not the witness, to be clear. The defendant, not the witness.
On the mattress or on the bed, was there a cell phone on there?
Yes.
Did you label that and take a picture of that?
Yes.
As far as reports are concerned, did Holly Moss do a report on the alternate light source?
You guys got to learn how to take the bar. You got to read the question carefully. What is she on trial for? Murder. Sexy murder. We're going to talk about it at a break. Now, unfortunately, I can't do a poll
On the,
on Rumble yet.
The shout bottle? Did it have like charcoal on the outside of the bottle? Could you take a look
Are
at
you
that exhibit?
referencing this picture?
Yeah, that exhibit, I think it's 11. Is that charcoal or what is that? on
No,
there?
that'd be fingerprint powder.
Okay, what is that? Tell me what that's for.
It's to enhance fingerprints.
To see if there's fingerprints on there?
Correct.
Okay, did you see any?
Yes.
Did you dust for fingerprints on any of these other items that have been offered in evidence, exhibits 10 through 15?
I did not dust for fingerprints this day. Forensic specialist Bailey Andre did.
Okay. Which items did she dust for fingerprints on? Do you know?
I don't know.
When you went to the off-site storage, was that on the same day on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
Do you remember what time you got to Stony Brook?
I don't recall.
Was it in the morning or afternoon? Do you
It
know?
was morning.
Morning. Were you done by noon?
No,
How long were you there, you think?
quite a few hours.
Okay, into the afternoon?
Yes,
And then after that, did you go right over to the storage unit?
we did.
And in the storage unit, there was this gold Chrysler Town and Country minivan.
Correct.
And were you told by investigators that you needed to take some photographs and look at the contents of what's inside of that minivan?
Yes.
And then you dusted for fingerprints on the van as well?
Correct.
Was Specialist Andre with you when you went to the storage facility?
Correct.
So it was you, Investigator Andre, Dr. Trankita, and then some detectives?
Every time I hear that, I look. I'm
Who were the detectives that
hearing
were
my
there?
own name.
Detective Scanlon, Detective Cassie Pacula.
I'm gonna have to do some degenerate shit and eat a little bit
few
on stream.
others as
Sorry.
well.
Detective Groff or not?
I don't recall.
How long were you at the storage facility looking at the contents of the van?
A few hours.
Were you done by 5 o'clock or did it go after 5? Do you
I
know?
don't recall the exact times.
It was a long day though, correct?
Correct.
And when you got there, you had to put on new PPE gear.
Correct.
And what were you told to do when you got to the storage facility?
Swab the door handles, interior and exterior, the steering wheel, search for items of interest, photograph it.
Oh, a
Had
quick
anybody been
announcement
inside the
to the chat.
uh,
Very important.
minivan
If you're
before you
watching
got
the
there?
trial
That's my
here
home.
on this channel,
back hatch was
I
closed?
will make
Correct.
offensive jokes. I will
When you got
disrespect
there,
the
then you saw
fact
it
that there's a
open?
horrific murder that
We opened
occurred.
it.
Who
I don't
opened
give a shit about the person on
I believe
trial
I
or
did.
anything. We're gonna watch it. We'll talk
Yeah,
about some
take me
law.
through,
We're gonna laugh.
what
It's
you
gonna be
did from
fun.
there.
If you don't want to have fun, go somewhere else
Once we
immediately,
processed
because
the
I
back
will
of the
not cater
minivan,
to your
then we went
bitching
to
or
the
whining about
passenger
it.
side, or the
Life is
driver
way too fucking
side.
short to be so goddamn dour.
Opened
Get
the
out.
door and I seen the crock pot box there, and we searched that and located human remains in there.
In that minivan, there was all kinds of stuff in there, wasn't there?
There wasn't too much stuff in there.
Well, there was the crock pot box, correct?
Correct.
Was there a laundry basket in there?
There was.
And then there was all kinds of other items in there, correct?
There was like a cooler in the back hatch. Just some other odds and ends, but it wasn't terrible.
Clothes,
Yes.
flag,
I'm sorry, what?
a flag.
I don't recall.
But it filled up the back of the minivan, didn't it?
For the most part, I guess.
Depends what you
And
mean
the-
by
the
filled.
minivan windows, were they tinted?
I don't recall.
But the human remains were in this crock pot box.
Correct.
I mean,
And
how much
who
time was left on
processed
them?
that?
Dr. Tranchita removed it from the vehicle and then removed the contents from it.
You didn't touch it, correct?
I touched it initially and realized that it kind of shifted and just kind of had an instinct that there was body remains in there.
When you opened the hatch, did you know what was in that box?
The crockpot box
Yeah.
that was in the driver's side passenger, the middle seat.
Okay. Did you know what was in the box before you opened the
No.
hatch? You were surprised?
Yes.
Who did this minivan
Did you
belong
say,
to?
"Ah"?
You know?
I don't know.
You didn't get involved in that, correct?
No.
And then when the minivan was done being processed, then you packed it up and you left?
Correct.
You and Investigator Andre?
Correct.
And your title is forensic specialist, correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell me what does that mean?
We process crime scenes, process evidence that's collected by officers in our lab. We process evidence that we collect in our lab, document crime scenes.
Take samples,
Correct.
dust for prints.
Correct.
Are you fully trained to do alternate light source testing on your own?
Yes.
Why did you have Holly Mays there from Ashwaubenon then?
Yeah.
At the time that she had a better piece of equipment than we had, it was more up to date.
And can you tell me about that equipment quickly?
It's called a Crime Light Auto. It has a built-in camera. So for us to be able to do what she did, we would have had to photograph things with our separate camera and use flashlights to be able to identify what she was able to identify all in one.
Okay. What is the device like? What does it look like? Does it look like a flashlight or what does it look like?
It's kind of like an iPad. but
Okay.
It's got a camera lens in the front.
Okay. All right. All right. Nothing further. Thank you very much.
Redirect? No. Okay, thank you. You can step down.
Okay.
Where's Bronca? I did not send out a bunch of invites today because I wasn't 100% sure when I was going to start up. Tomorrow, I'll be sending out invites to some more
Sure.
people. Because I've been waiting to stream with Bronca for like a
Offering those
fucking year.
exhibits.
Yeah, I can do it now. I would move 7 through 15.
Any objection?
No.
Those will be received.
Your Honor, could we take a short break? I need to.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take an afternoon break for about 10 minutes.
Oh, good. The judge has a few minutes to go devour a child. this judge is shady looking as hell. All right. How's it going, guys? Welcome. Bronca's in Europe. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? All right. So, hey, welcome to the first trial stream I've been able to do since, I think, February. Yeah, January, February, we had, what was that? What was that guy's name? Fucking Southeast on the East Coast. Oh my God, I can't even remember his name. I hated that trial so much. It was so boring. What was his stupid name? Doesn't Murdaugh. Thank you. Oh. And then I missed all the good parts of the Murdaugh trial because it wasn't supposed to go that long, but they let in everything into the case. And so it went like 6 weeks longer than expected. Anyway, Murdaugh was the last trial I was able to do. People have been asking me to do a trial for a long time. Look, just so everyone's clear, and I'll summarize the case in a second. Doing trials is great. It's fantastic for me. I mean, it is a lot of work. It's stressful, balancing the schedules and all that stuff. But when I'm able to do it, it's only good. Great for like, channel numbers and all that stuff. It's great for the algorithm because it's consistent content at the exact same time on the exact same subject. YouTube loves it. Learn this one great trick. All of it is good. There's nothing bad about streaming trials. The only thing that is mildly uncomfortable is just how much streaming it is. And I have to balance all the other stuff I have to do. But when I can do it, I do it. I literally have not had a stretch of time where I could do it that coincided with a trial that doesn't make everybody want to put a bullet in their mouth while they're watching it. So this is the first one I've been able to do. Yes, my friends Jeff, Legal Vices, and Joe, Good Logic, are both streaming this trial. I believe Kurt, Uncivil Law, may be streaming it as well. And no issue, drama, nothing about it. Everybody is all cool. Everything's fine. Before anybody tries to make anything of anything, no one's trying to take anything from anybody else. Like, we all just have the opportunity to do our own thing. When schedules line up, schedules line up. So that's the way it goes. This case is about an alleged murder. Very alleged. Always remember that the cops and the prosecutors are the bad guys until they're proven to be the good guys beyond a reasonable doubt. They have accused this lovely, perfect woman, innocently sitting at the desk, of murdering some guy, as if women have any power to kill a man ever, as the far weaker sex. Ludicrous assertion. I mean, a guy who would die by murder from a woman must be the most beta person on the planet. But that being said, allegedly she accomplished this Herculean task. And in how she's alleged to have done it is what makes this case very interesting. She was, again, I'm going to say allegedly a lot. I'm going to skip saying allegedly. I'm going to say she did that, but you have to imagine I say allegedly or it'll get too tedious. She is accused of taking like a normal to supernatural amount of methamphetamine, maybe, along with her, at least for the night, boyfriend, who is the alleged victim, and being engaged in a particular sexual act with him that has never been fully described that I've seen, but I'm pretty sure she's said to have been on top of him while he was lying face down with a choke chain. Yes, those choke chains you buy at like PetSmart or whatever for making a pit bull into a bitch. You take this chain and it's got a set of these little prongs. And when you pull on the chain, the prongs go from laying flat against the chain in a nice circle into a barbed thing that pushes in on the neck to force compliance with something. So she's supposed to be riding on top of him from behind while he's face down, which we can infer, or I did infer, and I'm going to say it. I called it back when it happened. I said that guy was getting pegged. He was getting it from she was giving him the Schabusiness at the time, and they have now located a dildo with a complex mixture of 3 individuals' DNA, 2 of them male, 2 of them male. But allegedly, while riding on top of this poor innocent prone man laying face down with a choke chain on his neck, he stopped responding. And I don't know, like, how weak are you if you stop responding while getting strangled? I guess. But if you have a manly neck, you just like flex in anger and the choke chain pops off. But this guy did not do that. He clearly skipped neck day, and he seems to have died. But if he wasn't dead, we don't really know necessarily what happened. We're not sure that he died at that point. She's accused of following through with a decapitation. So taking a knife and severing the head from the body. And then so she had time on her side, 24 hours in her life. So she had the methamphetamines, which I only know a few people who have done meth. And from what I understand, it is a wild stimulant that basically keeps you going and going and going. I don't know, would never try it. Sounds horrible to me. Sounds very scary. But with this meth allegedly in her system, she had plenty of time and utilized that time wisely to experiment with the body, and in particular, the phallus of the now beheaded individual for somewhere around 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours of time, as one would. I mean, if you have all of that time and energy, you have to expel it some way. So she allegedly, in various ways, tested out the functionality of a phallus on a decapitated person for several hours, and then realized that things had to change. Her life was not going in the direction that she wanted in that period of time. And so she used a knife or 2 to sever other body parts, namely the legs or portions of the legs, and the penis of the body were removed from the torso itself. So what was left, if I remember correctly and I understand correctly, this is the rough jigsaw puzzle we've got, is a head and the other head attached to a penis were left in a bucket in the room. The body was placed into a tote underneath some blankets to keep it warm. Look, when you get significant blood loss, you get cold. So she wanted to keep the body warm, puts it under some blankets in a tote for the torso with chunks of legs, and the arms, I believe, are still attached. But the legs she had plans for, so she had her own laundry in her van, her minivan. This isn't a big guy, just needs a minivan. And she had a box of, or like some laundry, like in a laundry basket. And on top of that was the box of a crock pot. There was some initial confusion that maybe she had put the legs in a crock pot. And I'm like, where does she shop? I need a crock pot big enough for human legs for reasons. Because if you've ever tried to make like a significant amount of food in a crock pot, you run out of space. Even with a big one, you just don't have enough room. And I'm like, wow. I mean, if you can put legs in a crock pot, I need that one. But no, it was just the box of the crock pot contained the severed leg portions in the box that was on top of the laundry. So she was apprehended with the legs in the crock pot box in the van. And then they proceeded to the house, which was the victim's mother's house, to find the head and the penis and then the rest of the body along with some other stuff. The reason they were talking about maybe an absence of the amount of blood that you would expect is because the blood was there's a shower in the basement room very near to the mattress where all of this is said to have occurred. And apparently there was an attempt made by someone, definitely not the innocent queen of a defendant, to wash the blood and viscera down the shower drain. I mean, which just seems polite, frankly. You don't want that shit running all over the floor. It could get on stuff. Like, what if you have a sandwich on the floor or whatever that you're waiting to eat till later and like the blood kind of seeps onto it? That is just unfortunate. But that is a rundown of the case as we have it right now. Okay. That is this. And I, for one, am on the defendant's side entirely and unironically because patriots have fought for the right to privacy in our bedrooms from government for years. What two consenting adults do in the privacy of their own mother's homes while on methamphetamines is not for the government to decide. I mean, the propriety of actions engaged in of a sexual nature between two adults is not for the government to judge, in my opinion. And I am very, very scared that this will set a dangerous precedent that you cannot just get together with your Tinder hookup, do some meth, have a little choke chain action, engage in some knife play, maybe some necrophilia. If we can't do that, what country do we even have? What freedoms and rights even matter in the absence of the ability to choose our own way? So that's my problem with this case. That's why I'm clearly on the defense's side here. All right. We're back. I hope that helps people understand.
No.
I will be streaming the overwhelming majority of this trial. I do have to end this stream at about 4:55 p.m. today, even if they're not done, because I have to go pick up my car before 5:30. Because tonight I have to pick up my son who's returning from a trip, and or my car, my van. I'm driving a big van, picking up a bunch of people, and I have to tow a big fucking trailer. So I had to get new tires because one was more bald than a Wisconsin prosecutor. So I had to do that. So I do apologize. I hope to not have to cut off any of the trial because it started at 8:30. But we might have to do that. I'll encourage people, if the trial is still going, to pop over on to Legal Vices or to Good Logic for that. Is she on a bunch of benzos? Like, she looks so fucking frustrated to be there. Just exhausted. But yeah, so but yeah, tomorrow we'll be back to an 8:30 a.m. start time. And we'll be going through the whole day. And there's also some interesting motion paperwork that I'll either cover during one of the day streams or one of the night streams about this. And yes, tonight I will not have a night show, but I believe every other night this week
Right up over here.
I'm set to have
You
one.
have a seat. If you can turn and face her and raise your right hand, she will place you under hold.
I don't know what happened to the mic.
Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole
Probably
truth,
on
and nothing but the
StreamYard's
truth in
end.
the matter now before the court, so help you God. I do. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Bailey Andre, Baeleigh, Andre, Andrae.
All of these
The
people look
witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
so stereotypically
All right, can you
Midwestern
tell us
to
how
me.
you're employed?
I'm employed with the Green Bay Police Department as a forensic specialist.
And we just heard from Ms. Sarneski. Is she a colleague of yours?
Yes,
You work in the same unit?
Yes.
Okay, and I guess in your words, what do you describe your duties as?
We process crime scenes, whether that's photographing, videotaping,
Be right back.
collecting evidence, processing for fingerprints, processing for DNA. We also go out and collect surveillance video for cases, and then processing evidence in-house for fingerprints and DNA as well.
And can you outline the training you've received as part of your current occupation?
So I went to UW Platteville. I have a bachelor's in forensics investigation. I also have a bachelor's in criminal justice. And then from there, then I've gone to ongoing trainings while I was employed with the Green Bay Police Department in their forensic unit related to forensic science for crime scenes, also for fingerprints. And then recently I've gotten IAI certified to certification for crime scene processing as well.
So I want to direct your attention to February 23rd of 2022. Were you working as a forensic specialist on that day?
Yes.
And did you respond to a residence on Stony Brook Lane on that day?
Yes.
And I guess what information did you have originally when you arrived at that residence?
I was instructed that there was a head in a bucket and that we were investigating a homicide scene.
So what was your role, I guess, in conducting that investigation?
It's the Cannibal Corpse cover of
I
that Sarah
did
Evans
all
song,
the
Suds in the Bucket.
photographs at the scene, and then assisted with taking swabs and assisted with collecting some of the evidence.
And were you working with Ms. Sarneski?
Yes.
So your role in photographing, you also assisted in collecting items of evidence. Is there anything that you maintained custody of yourself?
No.
Who was that done by?
Michelle Charneski.
So your role was kind of more the photographing end of things.
Yes.
All right.
How do you not have these questions ready to go? For people wondering what I'm eating, I have a basic Subway cold cut. I don't know. I needed to grab something pretty quick from town that wasn't just grease. Hey, what up, Maiden? How you doing? And I will get to the super chats as well. I read some now. Unhung Hero says, when do we get the rigor coitus testimony? I hope this chick testifies. It'll be so funny. Crew Kid says, after the solid camera work that was Dep V heard, this angle kind of sucks. Also, those judges' eyebrows are huge. Trent says, Ricada Law, any tips or advice for a junior paralegal? First trial case will be heard in a month. Okay. Yes, listen to the senior paralegals. They've been doing it for a while. They are gold to their attorneys, and that means they're gold to you, so you can be gold to their attorneys or your attorneys as well. Listen to them, follow their advice, even if they sound like, Roz from fucking that Monsters Inc. movie. Like, you need to follow their lead. That's why they're there. Let's see. Red One says, Nick, back to trial streams. Hell yeah. Again, like I said during the break, I've been looking for an opportunity. That's it. And these trial streams will be up on both Rumble and YouTube for the duration. Please watch where you are happiest watching and supporting. One of the things I made sure to do was to have my trial streams be able to be wherever I wanted them in whatever capacity I want to make them available, because I know that they're kind of a special thing that people really look forward to. And my only hope was to have a few more of them going. But I am happy to have, we got about 3,500 on YouTube and about 5,000 on Rumble right now, which is cool. Hopefully tomorrow, as people realize that this is, that I'm covering this, we'll get we'll get those rookie numbers pumped up to proper full-on trial stream numbers. Let's see. We've got Jamie Moodley says, "Ooh, wood, Law Daddy, great to see the trial streams return again. Always fun." Look, a case like this is so rarely perfect. I mean, it's funny. It's horrifying. The defendant has elbowed her attorney in the face at a hearing. She's charged with sexual assault, and one of the arguments to dismiss that sexual assault charge is you can't sexually assault a corpse under the law. Fantastic stuff. And we'll be going through that in one of the later shows. So check your mic plug. You have an intermittent audio bug. Dude, that's going to be StreamYard. The mic plugs are always the same. Never mind. I'm not going to argue audio issues. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I made a New Year's resolution not to argue audio issues after I murdered an entire town of Filipino children from the last fucking time I had audio issues. So I'm not going to do it. Habeas Corpses, great name, message retracted. Bad Weather Biker says, Nick, the defense attorney, I believe, is the son of a powerful judge and worker congressman from the neighboring county. Harold Froelich was one of the only Republicans that voted to impeach Nixon. Luis Cueva says, is she British or pretending that was from the first witness of the day? She was... I don't know. She's not British, but she may have been Australian, New Zealander. Someone said South African. I don't know. Let's see. We've got Jake CB says, is this the lazy decapitator? Yes. Lazy's a bit rude. Habeas Corpses says, did the defendant single-handedly redefine the practice of safe sex to include possession of a firearm? I hope so. Easis Donic Dom says, Nick, these physiques is from the all cheese diet. Lady Lee Bell says, is she handcuffed? She needs to be. I think she may be. But I don't actually know for sure. We've got Andrew Tomaszewska says, defense attorney sounds like H. John Benjamin. Oh, shit. Bumtown says, didn't Taylor what the business attack her lawyer during the preliminary hearings? Or was that someone else? No, that was her. Weaponized autism. Did she eat somebody too? No evidence of eating, although part of him was in her mouth for a significant amount of time. We'll call it lollipopping. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a defendant? Taylor Schabusiness attempted to find out. Dominique says the defendant looks like Detective Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She does. I mean, plus about like 45 to 60 pounds, I think. I think that if I'm estimating.
Have you had the chance to review all those exhibits?
Yes.
All right.
Oh,
And do you
okay, thank you.
recognize, each of those exhibits?
Yes.
And what are those?
These are all photographs that I took at the Stony Brook address of the scene and areas of interest and items of interest within the scene.
And were all those taken on February 23rd, 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're taking these photographs, actually, I'll start here. Apart from Ms. Sarneski, are there other officers with your department as well as medical examiner personnel who are present?
Yes.
Are they all sort of involved in, I guess, locating items of evidence?
Yes.
The photographs that you're taking, do they depict the scene prior to removal or messing with some of those items of evidence?
Yes.
All right, so the photographs are done first and then an item is collected.
Yes.
So the exhibits we just referred to in exhibits 16 through 54, do they appear to fairly accurately depict the scene in the basement that you encountered on February 23rd?
Yes.
I'd move exhibit 16 through 54.
I'd ask that the court delay that decision until I get a chance to cross-examine on some of these pictures.
Ooh. Overruled.
I'm satisfied that she's laid the foundation for them. Certainly, cross-examination is permissible, and whether they get published to the jury is another issue, but I'm going to receive the photos based upon the foundation that's been laid, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
That was a
Your
weird
Honor,
objection.
Further argument as to exhibit 45, there's an objection that it's more prejudicial than probative. And then as to 46 and 47, they're duplicitous, essentially the same pictures, but maybe a different angle. And same thing for 51 and 52, that they're kind of like doubles. So that's my objection.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, overruled.
So, apart from photographing the scene and assisting Ms. Sarneski with collecting those items, is that the sum of your involvement in the basement on February 23rd?
Yes.
Were you involved in part of this investigation in another location on that day?
Yes.
And where was that?
It's an off-site storage facility.
And what did you do when you got to the offsite?
So the goal of the
storage facility?
objections
We processed a vehicle that we had a warrant
is to
signed
show
for.
the jury
you recall
the
what
dead
sort of
body
vehicle
and
it
all the
was?
viscera as little
Yep,
as possible.
It was a Town and Country minivan,
Remember the color?
gold.
And at that point, it had already been transferred to the Green Bay Police Department facility.
Yes.
And what was your role, I guess, in processing the van?
I was doing photographs again, so I photographed the van itself and then items of interest, areas of interest.
Okay.
Ricardo's lubed, used, and smelly Baldo, first of all. Very offensive. Look at how much Ricardo can stuff into his mouth at once. You haven't even seen my final form, bigot. Mrs. Hayes, I only invited one person to the stream today, and I also told them, because they're on another stream currently, like, no drama, and stay there, and come over here. Either way, doesn't matter. Tomorrow, I'll send out more invites to some other people. I just was only streaming part of the day, so I really didn't go like all out on inviting people onto the show. But I'll be sending more invites. We'll be happy to have anybody on who wants to be on. But again, I'm not trying to step on any toes or anything. You know me, guys. I'm just here if people want an offensive view of whatever's happening with a little bit of law sprinkled in, because God damn it, it's depressing if you have to confront reality without some comedy.
Sandra, I'm showing that's been marked exhibits 55, 56, and 57. I'll ask you if you recognize those exhibits.
Yes.
And what
Yes.
are those exhibits?
These are photographs of the back passenger driver side of the minivan, which includes a crock pot box and a body part inside the crock pot box, and then the crock pot box empty.
Are those photographs that you took?
Yes.
And do those appear to fairly and accurately depict the van as you encountered it on February 23rd, 2022?
Yes.
I'd move exhibits 55, 56, and 57.
Your Honor, objection to 56 and 57 on grounds that they're more prejudicial than probative.
There you go. Overruled.
Okay, well, I'll hold receipt of those then in advance. I'll receive 55 and rule in 56, 57 at the break.
So judge is going to want to take a look at those things, decide if he wants to admit them. Look, I mean, crime scene photos are
And
hard to call them more
your
prejudicial than
involvement,
probative,
with
but
respect to the investigation of the van was strictly photographing the scene?
Yes, and then assisting Charneski with swabs. Mhm.
I want to ask you then about February 24th of 2022. Were you involved in any investigative steps on that date?
Yes.
And what?
and I'll happily
specifically, did
explain
you
like
do on that date?
prejudicial versus probative
We
as an
went back out
objection when
to
we have a
Stony
minute.
Brook house and we processed that scene. We took additional photographs. We collected additional evidence. We swabbed additional areas. We also used an alternate light source camera, and then we did Blue Star as well.
And I'm going to ask you, what is Blue Star?
Blue Star is a chemical reagent that reacts with the hemoglobin in the blood, and it's a presumptive field test.
So it's a presumptive indicator of blood, but obviously it's not a lab test of sorts.
Correct.
Okay. Are you trained in kind of utilizing and conducting investigations using Blue Star?
Yes.
And
D1001 more says
apply
women do stuff
Blue
like this
Star to an
only if they love
area,
you.
What happens?
Areas that would be positive would glow.
You got that glow. Your
And
power shows when you got that
yourself
glow.
and any other members of your department apply Blue Star to areas of the basement?
Yes.
Uh,
Sure.
Sorry, which areas?
The shower and the bed and floor area over by the bed.
And did you then photograph, I guess, the results of some of those testings?
Yes.
Power of innovation. God, I fucking miss The Last Dragon. Leroy. When you got the glow, you got to go, you got to know. Lady Raggets hates every time we're driving and the glow pops in on my playlist. And I'm like, oh, you're in for 7 minutes of funk, baby. Who's the master? Show enough. The trial's getting boring. Don't worry. Don't worry. This is just this is a boring part because we have the forensic analyst here is someone who took several crime scene photos, and she has to go through each of the photos presented by the defense attorney, authenticate them, make sure that they are the photos that she recognizes and that they are a truthful representation of what she saw at the time she took them. The defense has an opportunity to look at the photos as well to levy any objections that they have to those photos. So, like, these are just these long pauses that are going to happen from stuff like this as they review several photos and look for anything. Taco the Turtle, welcome. Paralegal status. Now, Brady, that sounds terrible to me, actually. Like, if it's taking that long, somebody isn't trying. Hey, we got a couple of super chats I'll read
Yes.
over here.
And what do you believe those
And
exhibits
Rumble
are?
rants.
These are photographs of the shower area with just natural light or a white light showing just different areas that were swabbed. So it'd be a bunch of sample stickers.
A bigoted light.
And then it goes into photographs of the Blue Star reagent where I photographed it on the side of the shower, on the bottom of the shower, on the shelf of the shower. And then there's 2 photographs that show the floor area underneath the bed. Half of that area is concrete, half of it is a carpet, and then one photograph is in like a natural white light, and the other photograph is showing the Blue Star reagent.
Are those photographs that you took yourself?
Yes.
And those appear to be fair reproductions of the photographs you took on February 24th?
Yes.
Did you take
at
any
booth
home
58 through
for your personal
63.
collection?
Any objection?
No objection.
58 through 63 of yours.
Ed Lauren says
And I'd ask permission to publish as well.
regrift of the veteranminer.com.
Yes, sorry, 58 through
MINER. Custom sleeved power supply and GPU cables for your PC Veteran-owned USA handmade products. Due to Snoopy prosecutors, we can no longer ship in crock pot boxes.
All right. I feel a little hard with the
Theveteranminer.com,
glare.
guys.
There's also a screen in front of you, Ms. Andre,
Screen's
so-
right down there, if you can see it.
Does this appear to be Exhibit 58?
Yes.
And what does this depict?
Just an overall photograph of the shower area. You can see a bunch of stickers throughout the shower. It's sample stickers for areas of interest that we swabbed. But this isn't just like a natural white light.
Essentially, this is your naked eye looking at the shower.
Yes.
All right. And then Exhibit
Tell me more about your
59.
naked eyes.
So that's going to be the edge of the shower. And that's that blue star reagent reacting on the edge of the shower. And that's actually the left side. It's a photograph of it.
So the sort of bluish highlighted area, is that the blue star reacting in those areas?
Yes.
All right. And then Exhibit 60.
Yep. So that's an overall photograph of the bottom of the shower. And that'd be the blue star reacting with that floor area and drain area of the shower. And then you can see on the right-hand side is the sides of that little like ledge.
And is that then 61?
Yep. And then 61 is an overall photograph of that ledge with the blue star reagent reacting in that shower.
Whew.
And
Looks
then,
like either a
are we
really good
looking at
night or a
Exhibit
really bad night.
62 at this point?
Can you repeat yourself?
Sorry, is this Exhibit 62 that we're looking at? It's a little hard with the glare.
Do you need the light off over there?
If we could, Judge.
Oh, that light. Murder Bit says speak slower and softer.
So-
Can't get off at this speed.
All right, so is this Exhibit 62?
Yes.
Okay, and what does Exhibit 62 depict?
This is the floor area outside of the shower. And I did originally describe it as that of the rug, or not rug, of the carpet in the concrete area, but it is outside the shower. It is very hard to see printed also as well.
Did the carpet match the
And you can
curtains?
see the pipe going into the little shower drain right there. And the shower is on the right-hand side.
This is essentially, it's difficult to see, but it shows that shower drain area that we observed earlier, Exhibit 58.
It's a different drain.
Okay. Yeah, which drain is this?
This is the outside drain. So there's a drain inside the shower, and then there's a drain just outside the shower. And the drain from the shower itself drains to this drain.
Okay, so then I'm going to pull up Exhibit 58 quick. Which drain are you referring to as being depicted in Exhibit 62?
The one that's on the very bottom of the photo.
Is it just a shitload of hair in that top
Concrete
drain?
level as opposed to in the shower itself?
Yes.
So then Exhibit 63, actually I will have to pull that up. All right, so are we looking at Exhibit 63 then?
Yes.
Okay, and what area is Exhibit 63 depicting of that basement?
This is the concrete and the carpet area that's underneath the bed. We moved the bed to search underneath for any items of interest, areas of interest.
So the area that we're looking at in Exhibit 63, was this, I guess at one point, under the mattresses that were located in the basement?
Yes.
Okay, and you said you had to move those mattresses to see this area?
Yes.
And I guess the area that we're looking at Exhibit 63, is that suspected to be blood or other biological material?
Yes.
What's the or other?
The mattress itself, the top mattress that was in the basement when you were there on the 23rd, did that have an area of blood spot on it?
It did have red substance. Yes.
I guess in your observations, did it appear that the red substance we're seeing in Exhibit 63 had sort of soaked through the mattress at all, or was it I guess, were you able to determine its origin at any point?
It did soak through the mattress, and we did look into it further to see how far, but not to determine where it came from.
Okay. I guess how far did it soak through the mattress?
Calls for speculation objection.
It's based
I
on
mean-
direct observation.
Yeah, that's not speculation.
Overrule the objection. Go ahead and answer it.
So
Um,
how far did it soak through the mattress?
All the way to the floor.
It went through multiple layers of the mattress.
many?
I don't know exactly how many inches it went down.
Sort of you're talking about the top mattress.
She's like, it was 4
Correct.
inches
Not the other
down,
mattresses that
about
were
this
below it?
far, like
Correct.
4
There
inches,
wasn't
I think.
signs of soaking
Maybe
through or anything
3.
like that in those mattresses.
No.
Thank you. Then I want to ask about February 25th of 2022. Did you assist Michelle Zarneski with processing items of evidence on that day?
Yes.
And what, I guess, items did you process?
We processed the shampoo bottle. We processed Clorox wipe container, shout bottle, a bunch of knives, the crock pot box, a rag, a towel, pair of shorts.
Guy on the right looks like he's got a bunch of nuts stuffed in his
there
mouth
might
like a
have been
chipmunk.
Another thing. We processed a bunch of evidence that day.
Sure. So what was, I guess, your role specifically in processing those items of evidence?
So I took all the swabs that day and then collected all the samples for that. And then I also dusted for fingerprints and then collected the fingerprints that were obtained.
I'm going to show you it's previously been marked exhibits 11, 12, 13, and 15. Do you recognize what those depict?
Yes.
And I'm going to ask to publish 11, 12, 13, and 15, Your Honor.
The objection.
No.
Those sound a little young to me.
All right, those can be published.
Exactly 34 says, I would like to poll
All right.
chat, rate this chick on looks 1
So
out
it's
of 10. He's
become
talking about
through
Schabusiness, I think.
Okay, so does this appear to be depicting exhibit 11?
He also said, I bet this chick
that
gives
we're looking at on
mind-blowing
the
head.
screen?
Yes.
Okay. And what is
Killer head,
exhibit
at least.
11 depicting?
It's a photograph of the shout bottle. It also has a latent that's labeled on it as latent 2.
Okay, I want to pause here and ask about that. So, what are latents?
Latents are going to be fingerprints that are not visible to the human eye unless they're processed with either like a powder or a chemical or with super glue. Or you can also do different lights at oblique angles as well.
Are you trained in I guess dusting or whatever the word is, items?
It's always weird
for,
when you have a
fingerprinting?
Yes.
Cleaner bottle
You've done
that is
in past
disgustingly
on
dirty.
cases?
Yes.
It's part of your common duties in the evidence department for the Green Bay Police Department.
Yes.
All right. So the sort of black, I guess, substance that we're seeing on the shout bottle, what is that?
That is that powder.
Oh, that's from the
So
cops.
once
They
we
got
took
it
all of
dirty.
our DNA samples from this exhibit, then I dusted it with a traditional black powder, and then we searched it and then labeled any latents that were, I guess, deemed suitable or showed any ridge detail for comparison purposes.
What do you mean by a latent being deemed suitable?
So there's a difference between having like an outline or what looks to be a fingerprint or like a smear of a fingerprint. Fingerprints are ridges. So if you have enough ridges and minutia, you'd be able to do comparison purposes. So with fingerprints, you need enough, and there's not essentially deemed what you need for enough. It's just that as a comparator, you would have to be able to look at it and see if you have any enough unique characteristics to make a comparison and say it would be a hit.
So there are times, I guess, when you observe something that looks like a fingerprint, but you're not able to compare it to anything. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. So as we look at Exhibit 11, then there's appears to be a label called latent 2. What does that signify?
That's the second latent that was located while we were processing this evidence that day.
The first latent, was that able to be developed any further?
No.
This second latent print, were you able to compare that to any other known fingerprint?
Yes.
And in the course of this investigation, did you have cause to compare that to a fingerprint card of Ms. Taylor Schabusiness?
Yes.
And what were the results of that comparison?
Latent 2 was a hit. I don't remember which finger offhand. It's all written in the details.
Okay. But there was a comparison or a match, I suppose?
Yes.
Be fair to say that you process a lot of items of evidence in this case?
Yes.
All right. Would refreshing your details help you remember the match that was associated with Ms. Schabusiness?
Yes.
All right. Showing you Exhibit 64. Do you recognize Exhibit 64?
Yes.
And what is that?
This is my set of details that I wrote for my comparison that I did on May 14th, 2022. And it's for the comparison of 4 different latents that were collected for this case, one being latent 2.
I'd ask you if you could review Exhibit 64, and I'll then ask if that helped refresh your recollection with respect to the comparison of latent 2.
Okay, thanks.
Please just let me know when you're completed.
I'm all good.
Okay, and in comparing latent 2 that we're looking at here, what comparison was able to be made with respect to Ms. Schabusiness's fingerprints?
It was a hit to the right middle
Was a hit?
finger of Schabusiness's 10-print card.
And I guess what's a 10-print card?
Anytime someone gets booked into jail, there'd be a 10-print card collected or a palm print card collected. And then it would be essentially connected to that record.
For the record,
I then want to look at Exhibit 12. Does that appear to be Exhibit 12 that we're projecting here?
Yes.
Okay, and Exhibit 12, does that depict the same shout bottle as Exhibit 11?
Yes.
Sort of on the different side of it?
Yes.
And there's a sticker that's affixed to that. What does that signify?
That is latent 3. So that's the third latent that we located in this case when we were processing the evidence.
And was latent 3 able to be compared to any other known sample?
Yes.
Okay. And in comparing latent 3, was one of those fingerprints you compared it to that of Ms. Schabusiness?
Yes.
And were any matches made?
Yes.
And what did latent 3 match with?
Latent 3 matched with the right thumb of Schabusiness's 10-print card and hit with the left ring finger of Schabusiness's 10-print card.
So there were multiple, I guess, latents or fingerprints that were located in this area?
Objection leading.
So were there multiple, I guess, fingerprints located in this latent 3 area?
Yes.
And then want to ask about Exhibit 13. Is that still in front of you?
ooh,
Is that what we're looking at here?
there's some
Okay, and what is
gristle on that
Exhibit
one.
13?
This is a
Damn.
knife with a brown handle and silver blade. And it's the photograph of it showing two different areas of interest that we were going to swab, one being the handle itself and one being the blade.
And did you take any swabs from that item?
Yes.
Where did you swab on that item?
One was from the blade and one was from the handle.
So we're looking at 13 here. Sample 14 and 15 are sort of shown in labels. Are those the different areas that you would have swabbed?
Yes.
Okay, so for instance, sample 15 of this exhibit, that would have been the blade area.
Yes.
And do you recall what areas of the blade you swabbed?
The entire blade.
All
Including
of it.
the
Look
silver,
at it.
Part and the red part?
Yes.
Your Honor, I've got an objection. We've got a knife up on the screen. I thought that was 13. Now he's talking about 15. So
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, can we fix
sample
that?
15 is the swabbing of the blade, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and this is still exhibit 13.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
The labels next to them, I think 15 and 14. Go ahead.
Just hard to see on the screen. I see it now.
Sure. So the sample that you took of the blade area, how did you collect that sample?
We always use sterile, clean gloves.
Oh, I left an option
One
off the
person
poll.
puts gloves
She
on,
doesn't
they don't
need
touch
fixing. She's
anything.
perfect.
Someone else assists with handing them a swab. So then they are holding the swab, the person that has the sterile gloves on. The assister would put distilled water on the swab itself, and then the person that's swabbing would swab the item or area of the item that is getting the sample taken for.
And then is that the process and protocol you used in this case?
Yes.
What did you do with the swab once you collected it?
It goes into a swab box, and then the swab box itself and swab gets entered into evidence as an exhibit.
And is that what you did for sample 15 here?
Yes.
And you then entered it into the Green Bay Police Department evidence room?
Yes.
I have to step away to the bathroom in just a second here.
Thank you. Then is exhibit 15, court exhibit 15, is that still in front of you?
Yes.
Stiga says, I grew up about 30 minutes north of
what
Green
does,
Bay.
Exhibit 15.
Just moved back here from the hellhole that is Seattle.
This is
I
a
don't say the
photograph
A in
of the
bag right
inside
either.
of the crock pot box.
Say bag.
And there is a sample sticker on the glove that's in the photograph, but it's very hard to see as it was washed out with the flash or with the camera, with how much light it was pulling back in.
Did you process the crock pot box as well in terms of swabbing it?
Yes.
What area did you swab, if you recall?
I believe it was the red substance inside the box.
Sort of on the bottom of the box as we're looking at it?
Yes.
All right. And
It's a remarkably
that
clean
sample that you
box.
collected of that area of the box, did you use the same protocol? in
That's
collecting
cleaner
the
than a
swab
box
as
you get
the
from
previous
relatives
one
when
we
you're like,
talked
hey,
about?
I need some boxes. I
Yes.
got to
And
move.
that was also entered into evidence at the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to step away. Be right back in just a second, guys.
Did you also, apart from those items we just reviewed, have the chance as part of this case to swab a item that was recovered that was described as a dildo?
Yes.
Okay, and you were asked to, I guess, process that item further?
Yes.
Do you recall the date that would have been?
That was March 4th, 2022.
What number is that?
I'm showing you exhibit 65. Do you recognize exhibit 65?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's an overall photograph of the packaging and of the dildo along with a sample 1 sticker next to it.
Is that an item of evidence that you would have swabbed in this case?
Yes.
And the photograph as well?
Yes.
You took the photograph.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd move Exhibit 65.
Any objection?
No.
65 is received.
The sample sticker that's sort of denoted in that photograph, what does that signify?
So that's sample 1. And typically when we start a new day, even if it's the same case, we'll start over with sample 1 through whatever we end up going to, just so that there's no confusion on duplicating samples. So this would be sample 1 because this was a new day that I was processing this single item.
The swab that you took of that object, where specifically were you swabbing, if you remember?
I was the entire thing.
And that swab that you collected, was that done in the same manner that you described earlier?
Yes.
Was it also then similarly submitted into the evidence room?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
Mr. Freilich.
Exhibit 65, the dildo. Why did it take so long to have that swabbed?
Sometimes items don't get swabbed right away, and then later in the investigation, detectives will request items to be swabbed. So I was just requested to swab this.
Okay. And that was done on March 4th of 2022?
Correct.
Where did you locate it?
Locate.
Where did you do the swabbing?
Oh, at the station. So at the Green Bay Police Department.
Okay. So on February 23rd of 2022, you worked with forensic specialist Sarnecki to process a gold minivan, correct?
Yes.
Was it a Chrysler Town and Country minivan?
Yes.
And that was at the storage facility?
Yes.
And you processed the minivan for DNA, latent prints, and other items of interest. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you had a chance to look at it, correct?
Yes.
You walked around the outside of it.
Yes.
You saw the inside of it, correct?
Yes.
Who else was there besides you and Specialist Zarnecki?
There was multiple detectives and then also medical examiner's office, including a doctor and one of their investigators.
Was it Dr. Tranquita and
I'm
Petra
back.
Schwab?
What's up,
Yes.
guys? They talked about the dildo
What
again
time
here.
of the day were you there? Do you know? Like, did you get there in the morning, in the afternoon?
For the vehicle or
Yes, for the vehicle.
for the vehicle?
Yeah.
That was in the afternoon.
Okay. How long were you there at the storage facility?
Maybe an hour, 2 hours.
Okay. And you took pictures?
Correct.
And then you met other detectives there, Detective Liberta, Detective Cassidy Pacala, Detective Bry, Detective Scanlon, Dr. Tranquita, and Investigator Petra Schwab. Is that right?
Yes.
You took pictures of the interior and the exterior of this minivan, correct?
Yes.
And you labeled and photographed areas of interest. Is that fair?
Yes.
And Specialist Zarnecki did the swabbing. Is that fair?
Yes.
The van, did you find two papers for a Wisconsin certificate of vehicle registration for that vehicle?
Yes.
Was that for a Scott M. Tomes?
Yes.
And that paperwork was found in the glove box?
Correct.
And then you found, did you find a Wisconsin title and license plate application for Scott Tomes for this vehicle in the glove box as well?
Yes.
There you go.
And then you also found a DMV registration receipt in the glove box. Is that fair?
Yes.
For what you knew,
Lod
the
689. I
owner of
hope
this
we answer
vehicle
the
was
pegging
Scott Tomes,
question.
correct?
Yes.
My money is on definitely pegging.
Did you watch as Specialist Zarnecki removed items from the trunk?
Yes.
Did Did she open the gate of the minivan or did someone else?
The gate
I
of
don't
the
remember.
Okay.
Very weird.
But
Okay.
You were there and you're watching what was going on, correct?
Yes.
Observing, correct?
Yes.
This is a minivan, so it has a side door that slides, correct?
Yes.
Inside the vehicle, was it such that
Christy Reed, no, I think
you
it
saw
was
a
during the
crock-pot box, correct?
asphyxiation
Yes.
without a hint
That
of
was
irony.
sitting inside of a laundry basket, correct?
Yes.
Inside the laundry basket, there were clothes that were folded or stacked, correct?
Yes.
And this laundry basket was sitting on a seat behind the driver's side.
Yes.
There was also a cooler in this vehicle, correct?
Correct.
There was absolutely nothing in the cooler, correct?
Correct.
You did not find the crock pot box. That was Specialist Zarnecki, correct?
Yes.
And Specialist Zarnecki removed all the items from inside the crock pot box, correct?
I believe it was Dr. Trinquita that did remove the items from the crockpot box.
Okay.
It was
Can
me.
you put labels on anything you found to be of interest, correct?
Yes.
There were areas of interest that were swabbed and processed for DNA. Is that fair?
Yes.
And then they would be given sample numbers, correct?
Yes.
And is it true that a mistake was made because there were two different areas of interest that were labeled by a sample 12 by mistake?
Correct.
And there were a total of 14 samples collected from the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about the mistake that was made. What happened there?
I labeled samples 1 through 12, and then Charneski labeled samples 12, the second one, and then 13. I guess I wouldn't know. We probably relayed the message that we thought we had less samples, but we didn't.
Okay. How did you rectify that then? Did you take some action to fix it?
Fixing it, I guess, would just be describing the samples itself. So when we enter them into evidence, they get a description of what areas that sample is truly from.
You also photographed some items that Specialist Zarneski found, correct?
Yes.
One being an empty pill bottle for Scott Tomes for oxycodone, correct?
I don't recall what the bottle was, but yes, I did take a photograph of a bottle prescribed for him.
And that was in the driver's side door, correct?
Well, if he was on oxy, he might
Yes.
not have even felt it.
The next day on February 24th of 2022, you and Specialist Zarnecki followed up by processing the residents at 829 Stony Brook Lane, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell me why you didn't go over to Stony Brook Lane the same day on February 23rd?
We already worked long hours, and everyone needed to take a break and get some sleep and rest.
That's kind of standard practice, yes?
Yes.
So then what time did you get over to Stony Brook Lane on February 24th of 2022? If you know, like, was it morning? Was it the afternoon?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you know how long you were there?
I believe it was for a couple hours.
Okay.
You
And
believe it
where
was
did
for a
you,
couple hours?
Investigator, where did you look around? Was it the whole house, just the basement? Can you tell me?
Just the basement.
Other detectives were there as well?
Yes.
And did your partner, Specialist Zarnecki, ask for assistance from an evidence technician at the Ashwaubenon Public Safety Department?
Yes.
And that was to utilize the ALS camera?
Yes.
Does the Green Bay Police Department have a camera that it can use for alternate light source investigations?
We now do.
Okay, but at the time you didn't have one?
Correct.
Were you trained to use this device back on February 24th of 2022?
I did not use it, and no, was not trained.
Okay, you were there kind of like for observation?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so was it?
What good are
evidence
you?
Technician Holly Moss that was using the camera and taking the pictures and doing all of that?
Yes.
The blue light, the exhibits 59 through 63. I don't know if you have them up there. There's a lot of exhibits. But
A
those
lot of
particular
exhibits that the
exhibits,
client's
blue
guilty.
light,
Shit. Woo.
Um,
It's tough.
what does that signify?
That's the blue star reagent reacting. That's a presumptive test for the blood.
So- The blue means blood?
Yep,
Presumption?
presumptive. Yeah.
Okay. Could it be something else?
Yes.
What could it be?
I know that it does react with different chemical reagents, like cleaning supplies. So the chemicals in there, such as bleach, but I don't know the list of what it all reacts with.
But certain chemicals can cause the blue light.
Yes.
It could be like a false positive. You might think it's blood, but it's something else.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Draw some
And,
doubt on the. That wasn't blood.
I think it's exhibit 58. I try to take good notes. Do you have that in front of you?
Yep.
Is that the shower?
Yes.
It shows the inside of the shower and a drain inside the shower, right?
Yes.
And then it also shows the shower drain. Let's strike that. It shows the shower with a drain inside, and then it shows a drain on the outside, correct?
Yes.
The blue light was coming from which drain? Do you know?
It was from the drain inside the shower.
Inside the shower?
It's coming from
For
inside
all
the
of those
shower.
Exhibits 59
Sorry.
through 63.
No, there's one photograph that shows the drain on the outside of the shower. So 62.
Okay. Can you turn your attention to exhibits 46 and 47, please?
Do you even have the ability to pay attention, ma'am? Talking Trash and Truth says, when I heard she pegged him, I immediately thought of you laughing hysterically. You've ruined me. I hope you're proud of yourself. Thought Provoking says, so glad we have you here to explain this all to us, Nick. The media made it sound like it was something weird. The only thing weird about this is how hard the prosecution is going at this innocent queen.
You have them?
Yep.
Gar, can I approach?
Amen.
Thank you.
Diamonds and Doggy says,
Both of these photographs, exhibit 46 and 47, basically depict the same mattress, correct?
Correct.
And the mattress.
had she
has
stopped after the choke collar part, would she still be here? That's just an accident, right?
some clothing items, correct?
It's not just an accident.
And a phone, correct?
She might be charged with like
Correct.
manslaughter instead of murder, something like that. Her
I wouldn't
defense,
say they're the same, but they show part of the same area.
her
You
defense
show the
is,
same
I believe,
mattress, the
not guilty by
contents of
reason of
it.
insanity.
Is that fair?
It's also a
Yes.
mitigating defense to
And
try
then
and avoid a
we-
mandatory
We can
life
turn your
sentence in
attention
Wisconsin.
to exhibits 51 and 52.
Talking Trash and Truth says, we're all being very insensitive and judgmental. She's not a necrophiliac. She identifies as pulse fluid. Hades XY reminds me of the Rammstein song Mein Teil. Mein
Is
Teil.
there?
Now they can make
You have them?
uh,
Gar, could I approach you?
Gottesen Betterin. I don't know German. The only German. I'm not even going to say that. I'm still on YouTube. I forget how to behave myself on YouTube.
52, both depict drains, correct?
Correct.
The drain that's outside of the shower, is that fair?
Yes.
And these drains have like some sort of a black hose that filters into the drain, correct?
Correct.
And then there's a clear plastic hose that also goes into it.
Correct.
And the drain has circular holes that are throughout the drain. Is that fair?
Correct.
Exhibits 51 and 52 are the same drain that's outside of the shower. Is that fair?
Yes.
Thank you. If you could direct your attention to exhibit 45. You have it?
Good.
Can I approach one more time?
Sure.
Exhibit 45 is the teal tote that we're talking about, correct?
Correct.
Did you see that at the Stony Brook Lane property?
Yes.
Was that on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
Where did you see it?
I saw it sitting next to the bed.
By the mattresses?
Yes.
Was that kind of like in the corner by the wall?
Yes.
And that was processed by you taking some pictures?
Yes.
Did you do any swabs of it?
Yes.
Where did you swab it?
We took a sample of the substance inside of the tote.
Anywhere else?
I don't recall.
When you initially saw the tote, was there anything on top of it or was it just exposed?
There was items on top.
What was on top of it?
Were items.
Miscellaneous clothing.
Very Wisconsin of her.
A rope.
Did you remove the items off of the tote?
No.
Who did?
I believe it was Detective Scanlon.
Did you watch that process unfold?
Yes.
With regards to the mattresses, was it such that there were 3 mattresses that were stacked on top of each other in the basement by the wall?
Yes.
Were they basically all of the same thickness?
Yes.
And on the top mattress, there was blankets and the phones and things of that sort, fair?
Yes.
Did you do any scientific testing
Nicolars.
as far as the
Wisconsin's always been a shit show for murders.
You know, the blood going through the mattress at all?
Can you re-ask that question?
Well, did you do any kind of formal testing as far as how far or how deep the penetration was with regards to the blood into the mattress?
No, this is not,
We did cut through the mattress to look.
it's not a
see
death
if
penalty
it
case.
continued through the layers
Wisconsin does
of
have
mattress.
mandatory life without
but
parole
I don't believe that we took a
The goal
photograph of
to get parole
the
or an
depth
insanity
itself.
ruling.
Okay. Did you do the cutting?
No.
Someone else did?
Yes.
Exhibit
We let Taylor Shabusiness do
63,
the cutting. She seemed like an expert.
The concrete and the carpet, you know, when you move the mattresses, did you do some swabbing and testing of whatever was on the floor?
Yes.
Where did you do the swabs? Because it's kind of a big area.
We labeled different areas on that floor along either spots that were red in substance or they reacted with the Blue Star reagent.
Was it your understanding that there was a cat in the house, that there's a kitty litter box down there?
Yes.
After you took all your samples, what did you do with the samples? Did you send them somewhere?
They all got entered into evidence with the Green Bay Police Department. And then it's up to the detective and the crime lab how many samples can be sent and which ones to send.
So the detectives are the ones that send the samples into Madison
Correct.
to the state crime lab?
Correct.
That's how that works, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's a Wisconsin thing. They can't say the core. Correct. It's 2 syllables. Margot V, no, this is not my sister. How dare you?
As far as the, the drain cover that we just talked about, did you have anything to do with moving the drain cover at all?
No.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you.
Redirect.
Briefly, so to be clear, when you were asked questions about like the ALS versus the Blue Star, those are different things, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the Blue Star that we observed the images of, you are trained in conducting sort of those investigations?
Yes.
All right. You were asked then questions about the shower drains. The drain itself in the shower, when you were kind of doing your processing of the scene, were you able to determine where it drained to?
Yes.
Where was that?
It drained to that floor drain right in front of it.
To her
So
mouth.
there are 2 drains that we looked at earlier. Essentially, they lead to the same one that's in the floor?
Well, the drain in the shower leads to the second drain. Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything on that, Mr. Fraley?
No.
Right, thank you, you're excused.
Couldn't you catch up at a faster? I'm live. This is live. The defense asked such bone questions. Well, I assume you mean like dumb questions or whatever.
Your Honor, I know that you said that.
Remember, the defense of this is the defendant's state of mind.
An exhibit or
So-
two till the break.
They're not trying to say that she didn't do it.
Well, if you have-
They're not trying to say that,
at
like,
some point.
it didn't happen or anything like that.
Okay, all right.
Looking for errors
to
in
the next witness.
procedure always, because if you
He will be lengthier, and we would
he will be
publish some of those, I think, disputed exhibits.
He
through
will
that
be
witness,
lengthier,
so
wow.
Potentially.
I think we'll take a 7-minute break. We'll be back
7-minute
at about 3:45.
break?
All rise for the jury.
Core TV is behind who? Like this is live on their end. So we'll well, someone says Core TV is behind. I mean, whatever. There's an 8-minute delay from live to where you are to compensate for your massive no. Oh yeah, yes, thank you. So anyway, where were we? What were we talking about? Yeah, so the defense of this case is this is a murder case. And the defense is that she's not guilty because of insanity. Oh, they're behind long crime. Too fucking bad. The long crime audio was garbage. It was cutting out constantly. That has not happened for me. If it's happening for you, it's between StreamYard and either YouTube and Rumble and your end somewhere there. I'm getting clean audio from the courtroom coming to me, and it should be clean audio going out. But if there's some audio issue on the, the receiving end, that could be a thing. I don't know. But when I was watching on Law and Crime at the beginning, their audio was cutting out for me for segments of time, minute to 2 minutes at a time, or longer. So we switched over to Court TV, which also has louder and clearer audio as well. So no, I'm not interested in catching up from that, just so you know. But back to the issue here. The defense of this is based on the state of mind of the defendant, which is an insanity defense. Now, she lost her insanity as a rule of law defense, which you would use. I shouldn't say insanity is a rule of law, a matter of law, but a competency. She's not competent to stand trial. But just because you lose that, she's competent to stand trial according to the judge. That does not mean that she cannot argue not guilty by reason of insanity to a jury. That is an argument that she can make. It can also be a mitigating argument to say, well, she did it, but maybe it shouldn't be murder. It should be manslaughter because she lacked the criminal intent to do it. Maybe she should not get a mandatory life sentence. That is the risk in Wisconsin. There is no death penalty, but if you get found guilty of first-degree murder, or, murder in a certain number of other factors, you could be found guilty without the possibility of parole ever. So a life sentence that you will serve until you die versus a life sentence that would carry the possibility of parole, which I believe is 20 years minimum. But then Schabusiness is only 25. I know she looks like a rough 25. Like she looks like one of those ATVs that's brand new, except it got run over by a semi truck. And you're like, well, it's only like 6 months old. I just got it. But bro, it looks bad. She looks old, but she's only 25 years old. If her lawyer can get her something less than a mandatory life sentence, she really does have a chance to come out of this. Part of the arguments, reason of insanity, drug-fueled psychosis, stuff like that would be the way to try and get it away from a lifetime sentence locked away. Say, she's rehabilitated through the prison system. She's no longer on drugs. She's not a danger to anyone. This is a crazy incident that was very unfortunate. She has remorse for what happened. Whatever kind of strategy you come up with to try and mitigate that. That is the lawyer's job here. So when we're on forensic fact witnesses, crime scene photos, stuff like that, the defense really doesn't have a lot to do unless there's a massive procedural defect that they can latch onto. So they're going to ask questions about their process. They're going to ask questions about the photos and the evidence that were collected. Was it done right? Does it prejudice their client's rights? Can they find some way in where someone screwed up that they can then move for a mistrial? They can move for, mistrial with prejudice, whatever, something like that, get the case dismissed. Otherwise, they're going to go through the motions until they get to evidence of the defendant's state of mind. And so that there's just not a lot to latch on to in these types of witnesses from this type of defense. And this isn't a whodunit case. I believe, if I remember right, she was arrested with his severed legs in the back of her van and then told them where the body was. So this is not like she's like, I didn't do it. She's like, well, I could only bring a little bit of them at a time because I only have one crock pot box. That's the situation we're in here. So that's the issue that we've got. So that's why you're seeing this line of questioning at this point. What do you do with this type of case? I mean, she did it. Pretty obvious, or seems to be obvious. Like there's not like another suspect or even a consideration that there might have been someone else. There's a possibility that she could try and argue that the death was consensual. Not like consensual, like kill me, baby, that'll be so hot, but like an accidental death as a result of consensual protected activity. You're going to have a hard time with that with the drugs involved. You're going to have a hard time with that with the dismemberment of the body. I mean, why it entered an excited state of panic when I was choking him out while pegging him that he died. And I wasn't expecting that because I didn't think he was that much of a bitch that he would die from it. And then, so I grabbed some kitchen knives and started chopping him up. It's not the best look for that type of defense. So they could try and make it, but it's going to be rough. Someone asked me if it's possible to have a death from consensual sexual activity and have it not be manslaughter or murder. Yes, it is possible for that to happen, but you're going to need some like evidence that it was consensual activity. You're going to need evidence that precautions were taken. It was a complete accident. But I mean, depending on the level of kink involved, I mean, certainly this type of stuff does happen. You have people with, various rope play fetishes where they like being suspended and even asphyxiated. To go with the autoerotic asphyxiation, for example, David Carradine, Robin Williams, both allegedly dying from that sort of sexual pleasure that they derive from being strangled, gone wrong. Now, those are solo jobs. It could certainly happen with another person, but, you get into questions of why don't you have a safety plan involved with this type of suspension? Have you done it before? Like, is this something, you have issues. So typically you're going to need someone to advocate on your behalf that this was consensual activity. They did it all the time. Something went wrong. Something like that would be kind of an issue you would try to argue. In this case, I don't think you're going to run into that. I mean, this is extremely violent levels of kink that go beyond normative aberrant behavior, right? There's a difference between having a collar with like a little claspy thing that you pull on versus a literal fucking choke chain that you put on a dog that could cause serious harm if used. Like for a dog with a choke chain, you pull on, my understanding, I've never used one on a dog or person, but my understanding is you pull on it, the prongs go in, and that is the disciplinary action. It's a very fast thing. A choke chain isn't quite the proper term for it because it's really just it's like a push reminder, and that continued pulling on a choke chain can be very abusive to the dog is my understanding. I don't know, but that's what I believe is the case. So using something like a dog choke chain versus stuff that you would buy in sort of a BDSM friendly environment that is kind of made with human safety a little bit more in mind is not strong evidence that that this is on the up and up and some kind of unforeseeable accident. You're looking at using things that are very, very dangerous here. And then again, that follow-up activity cannot tell us the state of mind. You cannot use the state of mind after an event to justify or to either justify or condemn the person for the event. However, the state of mind that we get from the circumstantial actions that follow can be indicative of the overall mindset that someone is in. Dismembering a body and trying to conceal it is circumstantial evidence that you think you did something wrong. Is it conclusive or definitive? No, but it is circumstantial. You can make the case, and the jury gets to make the fact question about what the defendant's state of mind was. And remember, state of mind is always a subjective, circumstantial case built on evidence external to the thinking of the person, because we don't have the ability to read someone's mind, and we certainly don't have the ability to read someone's mind in the past. Even if they make a live recording of what they're doing and saying, you have to entertain the possibility that they're actually thinking something differently when that's going on. So I hope that helps clear up some of the questions about how this defense is going, what it's based on, what kind of some of the issues are with these types of deaths. Not that I've seen a ton of them. These are just kind of the practical things that I'm addressing with one of the main aspects of criminal law. Mens rea is the Latin for it. Do you have the criminal mindset, the criminal intent sufficiently manifested to commit a crime versus having a shitty situation? And that mens rea does not mean that you intend to kill, but it means that you intend to do a sufficiently criminal level of activity that leads to a bad outcome. So in this case, if a choke chain is an excessive, or if it's used in an excessive way, implement, that would be a criminal act that you cannot consent to, because you cannot consent to murder of yourself. You cannot consent to manslaughter. You cannot consent to an assault, an assaultive behavior. Now, you can have a mutual combat thing with rules, like you can get in a fight, right? Like that's a thing, depending on the state. And if there's if it's a sanctioned boxing match or something, you can consent to those types of typically unwanted touches. But you cannot consent to some excessive level of violence that goes beyond reasonability into extreme dangerous situations. It has to be an accident that does not have a reasonably foreseeable chance of death. So you would be doing activities that are consistent with other people doing similar activities for pleasure in the same way that they're doing them, and then end up with a bad result because maybe the person had an underlying ailment. Maybe the person had a neck injury or something that's exacerbated or complicated that wasn't known at the time. You could entertain the possibility of, for example, my mom broke her neck. Not in a way that severed the spinal cord, but she broke her neck she was hit by a rogue wave on a beach. Like this huge wave came and just slammed her into the ground underwater, and it broke her neck. She didn't know her neck was broken. She knew that she had pain and soreness and her neck didn't work right, but it was a long way back to the hospital. They were on a very remote beach. When they got there, they're like, "Oh my God, your neck is broken. We need to get this healed up." She's very, very fortunate to not actually lose any ability to at all, like no nerve damage or anything like that. And she's fully recovered. But if you had some sort of underlying, same thing actually happened to my high school science teacher. She took, there was like a nerd trip that the science teacher takes with the nerds, and they went out to some nerd concert, and one person in the crowd did a stage dive thing and hit our science teacher, like hit her in the head and kind of pushed her neck to the side. And she actually severed her spine, but not the spinal cord itself. So she broke a vertebra. I should say she broke a vertebra, but it didn't sever the spinal cord. She had this unknown injury that wasn't identified until she got to the hospital. Now, if you have some situation where there's an underlying injury where complicating it could, lead to this thing, and you haven't identified that injury, that would not be, a criminal thing. You wouldn't know that had happened. And again, this is all predicated on the idea that you're practicing your kink or whatever in a way that is consistent with how people normally do stuff. So again, those are the kinds of issues that you've got in cases like this. Not to make it too weird, but let's be honest, this is a weird fucking case. So we're gonna have some discussions about some very strange shit as this case progresses. Get used to it. Enjoy it, love it. Maybe you'll learn something new that you like. Oh my goodness. With that, we've got Big Boop over on Local says, in regards to the defense of this case, the judge specified at the beginning of this case that they're trying this in two parts. First, whether or not she is guilty. If found guilty, the trial will continue and explore the insanity plea. Well, there you go. Spoiler alert, she gonna be found guilty. She gonna be found guilty. Is consensual dismemberment allowed? I do not think so. I'm not aware
Before we bring the jury back,
of anywhere that would be
mention
possible.
this is going to be a
Except
little
in the
longer.
case of
How
people
long do you think
who
this witness or do you anticipate it taking? I was planning on
go
going
to
until 5 o'clock
surgeons,
tonight.
Yeah.
specific intent of removing body parts,
Hopefully we could get him done by 5.
like transableist people. Transableist people.
Right, we'll bring the jury back.
All right. So the plan is to take this witness, if you didn't hear because I was blabbing, through the end of the day, which is 5 o'clock Central Time. So we've got about another hour. I will have to go right at 5 o'clock at the absolute latest. So I will try to finish this out. But if it does run up past that 5 o'clock time, I will not be able to finish it because I have to leave and go get my vehicle right at 5. So that's just what I got to do. Sorry about that. Tomorrow, so since it'll be truncated at the end, tomorrow I will be streaming the whole trial from 8:30 a.m. Central Time through the 5 o'clock-ish time that they're going to end. People saying, look at them
Just to
milkers.
give you an understanding
Probably
of
literal
where we're
milkers.
at
She has a
for
young
today. It's
child.
about 5 to 4. The state is indicating that for today, they've got one more witness, and it's anticipated that witness is going to wrap up around 5 o'clock, and then we'll break for the day, just to give you a sense of how long we'll go for today. With that, I'll turn to the state. Mr. Lezay, are you calling the next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Detective Philip Scanlon.
Right, if you want to step up, and before you have a seat, turn and face
Fatty
her and
Aditi
raise your right
says,
hand, she'll put you under oath.
hey, Nick, longtime YouTube viewer moving now to Rumble.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
Haven't
but
watched the
truth,
videos
and
around
nothing
here
but
yet. You
the
comment on
truth, so help
Elon
you
Musk's
God.
lawsuit against the previous Twitter lawyers yet on any of them? No, I have
Philip
not.
Scanlon, SCANLAN.
Okay, and then the witness is yours, Mr. Lezay.
Detective Scanlon, can you tell the jury how you are employed?
As a law enforcement officer of the City of Green Bay Police Department,
What is your current role with the city of Green Bay?
I'm currently assigned as a detective in the Bureau of Detectives.
How long have you been with the Green Bay Police Department?
24 years.
Do you have any law enforcement experience prior to the Green Bay Police Department?
I was a sheriff's deputy for 1 year prior to that in Allegheny County.
Can you talk a
This
little
guy's
bit about any
goatee, like,
training
way
or
uneven?
educational experience that you have that led you to be a law enforcement officer?
Well, I have a high school diploma. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I was certified in the state of Wisconsin through the Law Enforcement Academy, and then got hired in Allegheny as a sheriff's deputy in Allegheny County, where I went through field training program. Then transferred to the Green Bay Police Department in 1999, where I again went through another 14-week field training program, maybe a bit longer than that. And then your standard classes and yearly in-services. Then went into the Drug Task Force 2010, where I received more training in narcotics investigations. And
Drug task
violations of
forces are
controlled
bullshit.
substances, and
Fight
then
me,
went into the
cops.
Bureau of Detectives in 2014, where I was trained in more serious crimes, investigating deaths, persons and property crimes.
So I think you indicated you went to the Drug Task Force in 2010.
I did.
Did you work there until 2014?
I did.
And then in 2014, you became a detective.
That's correct.
And as a detective, what's your typical role in handling investigations?
Assigned to the Detective Bureau, we get called in for investigations, typically more serious in nature, that require follow-up from a detective on a crime that occurred, maybe above the scope that a normal patrol officer would investigate. We get assigned those cases with other detectives to investigate, follow up on those investigations, interview witnesses, question suspects, and then ultimately prepare facts if warranted to the district attorney's office of prosecution.
As part of a detective, are you trained and experienced in processing crime scenes?
I am.
And is that on the job training, professional training, some combination?
Combination.
OTJ.
And as part of your work through the Green Bay Police Department, were you asked to assist with a crime scene on February 23rd, 2022 at 829 Stony Brook?
I was.
And describe how you initially became involved in the case.
Faceless
I
man
received a
says
call in the early morning hours.
she's a
asked to come in,
deceased attracted
take part in
person.
that investigation. I responded to the Green Bay Police Department where I was briefed on what had been learned by patrol responding to that address earlier that night. I then responded to the address where the crime scene had already been maintained, and then went from there.
When you initially responded to this, or do you know about what time you initially responded to the scene?
About 6:30 in the morning.
And who was with you when you arrived?
I met Lieutenant Brad Strofe, who was a detective lieutenant. I met with the sergeant on the scene, patrol sergeant on the scene. It was Sergeant Brester. I believe Sergeant Tom Bain was present as well. And then forensic specialist for evidence collection, Miss Andre and Miss Cerneski arrived. And then shortly thereafter, Detective Cassie Pakla arrived to assist me as well.
When you arrived, did you immediately begin processing the scene?
No.
What did you do initially?
So we initially did a walkthrough. I met with the sergeant on scene, kind of got updated as to what happened so far. Double checked that we had a crime scene log started that we can document who's coming in and who's coming out. I had caused that phone contact with detectives that were questioning Schabusiness, and there was some question about the location of his body. So initially I did a walkthrough of the home looking for a body. That was one of the first things I did.
You mentioned that you were talking with some other detectives. Is it common in your work that when there's multiple detectives working on the case that you're going to have ongoing phone contact at the outset of an investigation?
Yes.
Were you aware of whether or not other detectives were assigned to meet with and interview Ms. Schabusiness?
I was aware of that.
And do you know who those detectives were?
I was Detective Graff and Detective Kemp.
And do you believe they were actually speaking to Ms. Schabusiness while you were in the home at Stony Brook?
Yes.
And were they providing you information that she was giving them in the course of the interview?
They were.
And what was the purpose of them contacting you with that information?
Initially, we were aware what patrol officers found when they arrived at the scene based on the 911 complaint. And she was providing them
The
with
911
information
complaint?
that his body was by the bed. I was in the basement by the bed. I didn't see a body. So the initial information was an attempt to find the body. Not knowing initially at first that we were looking for a whole person. They then provided information to look for a tote
We're looking
next
at
to the
for
bed
a
that she had
whole
described, which
person?
I observed. I was told that she had made mention of a bag. And then in a short period of time, it kind of came into perspective that we weren't looking for a whole body. And then we knew we were going to be doing a recovery of multiple parts.
And in terms of actually going into the tote and going into the other bags that might have been on scene, is that something that you did right away while you were having that initial contact with detectives?
No.
And what were you waiting for at that juncture?
We knew we had consent to be in the house from the homeowner, but we had chose to start writing the search warrant, which is very routine in a homicide investigation. We were also having kind of learned the scope of what we were looking for, not finding a body out in the open. We decided to wait for the forensic doctor, Dr. Trenkaita, to arrive from Dane County, and the medical legal investigator, Petra Schwab. We wanted her to arrive before we started looking through containers.
And is that how it happened, that Dr. Tranquita and Petra Schwab arrived on scene before you began in earnest to search for the remains?
Yes.
And did you also obtain the search warrant that you mentioned?
Yes.
Prior to discussing the specifics of analyzing the scene in the basement, can you give me an overview of of the home at 829 Stony Brook, the layout and what you observed upon entrance.
Sure, it's a single-family home, story and a half. It is the front of the home's a living room that opens up into 2 bedrooms on the south end of the home and a bathroom. There's a kitchen to the north end that goes down to a side door off of the driveway. And like a lot of those homes, the side door that accesses the driveway, there's a landing and you can go up into the kitchen, into the first floor of the home, or you can go down into the basement of the home. The basement was partially finished on the west side of the home. And then the east side of the home, divided by a partition wall, was an unfinished basement for storage and laundry.
If you
In
don't
terms
live
of areas in the home where
in certain
items
areas of the country,
evidentiary
unfinished
value were
basements
noted
are
or collected,
very
can you talk
common
about which
in the
portions
cold
of the home were
hell of the
significant to
Midwest.
investigation?
Yeah, myself, Detective Cassandra Pacula, and the forensic specialists and the doctor and Ms. Schwab, we focused primarily on the basement. We understood this far that the basement seemed to be the most likely place we were going to recover the remains. We also had some cause to compare items that were found in the basement with the kitchen. So primary
My
focus
basement's
of this
finished. Oh,
investigation was
snakes.
on the stairway off the side driveway going down to the basement. And there were some items found in the kitchen as well.
Do you know if there was anything else of evidentiary significance recovered in other portions of the home on the first or second floors?
There was not.
Detective,
I love exploring the duality of Taylor Schabusiness. Mother,
and then
murderer,
tell me once you've had a chance.
life-giving, life-taking.
Sure.
Loki says, off topic, what's your thoughts on Leafy's comeback, if any? I barely know who Leafy is. From what I've seen, seems pretty funny, but like, I didn't know Leafy's was gone. Didn't know Leafy came back. He had like an argument with somebody a long time ago. I don't know. Don't really watch that, like the heavy drama content, but I saw him making fun of Adam 22 and that was funny. Precure Nick, what's the funny Bible story about man falling? That's in Esther. Esther's not a long book. You'll read it like it's like a 10-minute read. You'll find it quick. Bobby0081 says, what the fuck is a rag?
If you had a
A
chance to
rag
see
and
them,
it rhymes with hag.
do they appear to be consistent with your observations in the residence?
Welcome to
on
Wisconsin.
February 23rd, 2022.
They are.
Your Honor, I would ask for permission to publish one at a time, 16 through 21, using the overhead projector.
Your Honor, I'm not going to object to these exhibits and no objection to publication.
Detective Scanlon, is Exhibit 16 now displayed on the screen?
Shut up, I can cook says, hi, Nicholas. A
It
trial
is.
you covering? Yay.
We can-
Have to watch
we can-
openings later. Me too.
We dim the lights again.
I miss the opening statements.
Also, Detective, there's also a video down here if that's easier for you, but you can look at either one. It's fine.
Don't tell him what to do.
And what is depicted in Exhibit 16?
That is a front view of 829 Stony Brook from the street.
And which door did you use to stage as law enforcement?
So we made the decision to enter once we started the process of scene through the front door. When we initially arrived, we know a lot of the initial first response from officers talking to the residents was through the side door, which is the way the officers happened to approach that day. So when we decided to process the scene, we started to use the front door and we kind of staged in the living room and then worked our way through there.
And this photograph, does it depict the side door and where it's located?
That's correct. The side door is off of the driveway.
And Exhibit 17? Officer Scanlon, is Exhibit 17 now on the screen?
I see that.
Yeah, what is depicted in Exhibit 17?
That is an image of the kitchen on the first floor. with the vantage going into the hallway that leads to the bedroom and the front room.
How many Jews did you find in the oven?
And Exhibit 18?
It is.
And what is that?
That is another picture of the kitchen, but with the vantage flipped, focusing on the landing off the side door off the garage.
And Exhibit 19, is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is depicted in Exhibit 19?
This photograph was taken particularly of the wooden knife block that was right next to the stove.
And what was the evidentiary significance based on your understanding of the investigation?
When we started to process the basement, we had found several kitchen knives, what appeared to be kitchen knives that we believed, based on how they were found, would have been involved in the homicide. And the knives were consistent both in number and appearance with the knives in the kitchen block.
So it appeared that there were how many slots missing on the knife block?
There
were
was
no-
4 knife slots missing and a kitchen
What?
shears, scissors.
There were no
We
knife
recovered 4
slots
knives
missing.
that appeared to look like the knives that would have come out of that block.
Huh, no. Okay,
The next
stop
exhibit, I
it.
think, is
You
Exhibit
can't
20.
know what knife would come out of a block. Like, that's
Is
completely
that now depicted
ridiculous.
on the screen?
It is.
And what is that?
It doesn't matter,
That
but I mean,
is
come on.
from the kitchen looking out the side door into the driveway.
And does that depict like an outside or screen door? So the inner door is open and there's a screen door to the outside?
That's correct.
And Exhibit 21. Is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is contained in Exhibit 21?
This picture is from basically the position of the landing next to the side door, looking down the basement staircase.
So after you processed the scene upstairs and evaluated what was present in the kitchen area, you did make your way ultimately to the basement?
We did.
And that scene was processed by you along with the forensic team from Green Bay PD and the medical examiner's office?
Yes, it was from Petra Schwab, who was from Brown County Medical
Salty
Examiner's
sand.
Office, and then Dr. Trinkita.
Doesn't matter that
who
each
was
blade
the
is for a
lead doctor at
specific
the time at
use.
the Dane County
No
Medical
particular
Examiner's
knife
Office.
definitely
Once
goes
you
in a
began
particular
your
knife block.
inspection
Even if the
for,
brands match
human
and shit, you
remains
could
and
never
collecting
know.
them, how did you and
It's
the
just a hole
team
that you
sort
put a
of
knife in.
document or parse out how you were going to locate remains?
So we started with what we knew was there with the Fleet Farm bucket, right at the bottom of the stairs that we considered to be container 1 for the purpose of evidence collection. The doctor removed the human remains in front of us. And then we also examined what was in the bucket besides the remains.
If there were items of human remains or portions of a body, who was responsible for collecting the portions of the body?
The doctor was.
If there were other evidentiary items that were non-human remains, who was responsible for collecting those items?
So it's just as a matter of procedure in this, with the forensic doctor being there, the doctor was the one that removed the remains. We were cautious to overexpose items in these containers. So the doctor actually removed the remains and the items in there and put them on display for everyone to observe and note. Then the doctor collected the human remains, and then forensic specialist Larson and Chernesky ultimately collected the other items that were in the containers.
And who was then responsible for maintaining and processing the non-human remain portions of evidence?
Forensic specialist Larson and Chernesky,
And those were brought back to Green Bay PD then by members of your department?
they were.
And just to be clear, you keep, you use the name forensic specialist Larson. Is that her current name?
I'm sorry, that's her maiden name, Andre.
So we're talking about the same person. Larson
Yes.
and Andre are the same person.
Sorry.
The handle and the knife and evidence matches those in the block. Doesn't matter.
So you indicated the first item or the first container that you processed was.
You know how many
the-
J.A. Henkel's knife
black
blocks there
handle,
are in the
correct?
world?
That's correct.
Or Chicago cutlery? Or Pioneer Woman or Martha Stewart or whatever one you want to use. Like, you just can't tell which knife specifically goes in which slot of a given knife block. Yes, I get it that there's a bread knife slot in your cool fucking knife block. You don't know that the bread knife that you have goes in that bread knife slot in that block. It's an impossible thing to figure out. That's the point. Now, maybe you have a custom knife block with a custom hand forged knife set that you ordered. You spent like $26,000 on some jackass laboring for 3 months to make your cool Damascus folded steel knife set. Great. Taylor Schabusiness or the dead boyfriend's mom's house doesn't have that. All right. Like that knife set looked like something you get from a garage sale.
And do those accurately depict your observations on the scene at the Stony Brook residence on February 20?
Don't fuck with me on knife knowledge.
They do.
Your Honor, I would ask for permission to publish those as well.
No objection to exhibits 22 through 25, and no objection to publication.
You can go ahead and publish them.
What is depicted in exhibit number, is exhibit 22 now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what does that show?
That's at the landing, looking west into the finished portion of the basement. It also depicts the Black Fleet Farm bucket and a multicolored towel that was next to it.
And exhibit number 23, is that now up on the screen?
It is.
And what is depicted there?
That is a picture facing north that catches back to the stairs and a small storage unit. It's basically an overview of the Fleet Farm bucket and the multicolored.
By the way, I have a very nice set of
next to it.
Shun kitchen knives. Thank you.
And exhibit number 24, I believe.
And yes, I know there are
Is that
better
now
knives,
depicted
but
on the screen.
there is a level of reasonability for me.
And what is, again, what is exhibit 24?
It's the Black Fleet Farm bucket and the multicolored towel. I see they have some placards down in this photo and are holding a sample indicator.
What are the purpose of the placards?
Forensic specialists take great care in documenting what they're capturing. So they'll take a picture of an image with a placard, and then as they itemize evidence, we'll refer to that placard that they collected.
And exhibit 25, is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is shown in exhibit 25?
This is 2 knives, a Jolly Rancher, a nail, a razor head, and some flesh tissue is described. These were in the bottom in the Fleet Farm bucket underneath the remains that we recovered.
So these are items that were located in the bucket and then ultimately collected by Green Bay PD?
They were.
I'm just arguing with people about knives. Mac 1968, thanks for the super chat. No message attached. TB 2035. Can't wait for Nick to cover the first Baldo murder where the murderer dismembers the body with a mini chainsaw. That'll be great. The Wolf of Fenris says, "Is there a crack pat backs in the cat packed in the Havid yad?" Red 1777 says, "Cream pie pegging, sucking off meth just the way Hunter Biden likes his girls." I Care 22 says, "Nick, call the priest unbreaded. She needs an exorcism." Dex Luther, no, I do not love Kamakota knives. They asked me if I would advertise them. I said no. I don't advertise garbage. Salt A says, "I would have crazy eyes dick down for a night, but if it was her way, I'd probably get pegged and get my face smashed into pieces first." Oh yeah, you'd be done. Roscoe says, "I can make her worse." Dina says, "I appreciate your comments watching from Seoul." Hey, thanks, Dina. Welcome. You like ceramic knives? Ceramic knives are great. They're really sharp and they hold their edge for a really long time. And then when they stop, you throw them away because they're not expensive. They're really nice for a lot of stuff. I mean, I have a couple ceramic knives that I use for just like general quick chops of stuff, but I have my nice knives too. Master Ninja 2321 says, "There's two parts of the trial. First part, the state has to prove she did it. Second part, defense have to prove not guilty because of insanity." Kelly Brunner, thank you for the super chat. Whiskey theorizes, "Is there any way you could add a clock in the corner to show the time of day to trial streams to help with playback?"
Also accurately depict what you
I watch
observed and in some
work and
instances
playback
collected
later.
on the scene at Stony Brook on the
They do.
23rd of
I
February.
don't know of an easy way to do that, but I can try
I'd like
and figure something
to
out
publish that,
in
Your Honor, as
StreamYard.
well.
Exhibits 26 through 32, no objection.
Oh,
and
shoot.
No objection to publication.
Engineer says, "My dad passed January this year.
26 through 36, just to.
Oh, through 36.
Turns out my parents hid that my dad had a hidden heart attack. Found out later at a doctor's visit. Was asked, 'When was your heart attack?' Had no idea those existed." Yeah, they can. Hidden
Is
heart
Exhibit
attacks can
26
exist.
now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is shown in that photograph?
It's a photograph of the finished basement from the staircase, from the bottom of the staircase, looking into the finished basement.
And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but there were several different containers that were located with body parts. Is that correct?
That's correct.
One was the bucket that was container one.
That's correct.
Container two was which?
Container 2 is a blue Jimmy Choo duffel bag that's not visible in this photo.
Casey Moody
It's not
says,
visible
"Thank
in
God
this
hearing
photo. Where
Joe
was it
talk about
located?
toys is
Can you see
creepy."
the area where it was located in this photo?
If you look at the photo,
I wanna see
just
that.
to the right,
I hope it
of
gets
the
clipped.
wood grain wall, you'll see a multicolored lamp. Next to that is a entertainment center, makeshift dresser, and there's personal items on that, and including the blue bag.
So that would be on the left-hand side of this photograph. Out of view is where that Jimmy Choo bag was located.
That'd be correct.
And is the container three was what item?
Container 3 is a pink and black Under Armour backpack. That is just out of view at the left side of the stack of beds.
And what was container four?
Container 4 is a blue, I refer to it as a blue tote bag, or I guess tote, or light blue. It's in the far right side of the bed, covered by what appears from here to be a blanket and some items.
So exhibit 4 is depicted in this photograph.
It
Or
is
container 4, excuse me.
container 4.
Correct. And is it displayed in this photograph essentially as you found it when you first went down to the basement?
Yes.
And could you describe again for the jury where they could find that blue tote?
So looking at this photograph, you'll see a couple box springs and a mattress towards the back of the room. If you look at the right end of the beds, between the wall and the bed, you'll see a light blue object. That's like a tote storage bin.
That
That's
3 mattress
container 4.
setup
And
is
does it appear to have
something.
anything on top of it?
Yeah, it's covered by personal property. There was a blanket on top of it. There was some clothing, some jackets on top of it that kind of obstructed the view of what was inside the tote.
And to your knowledge, had law enforcement or any medical examiner personnel significantly disrupted how this room looked prior to this being photographed and you collecting the remains?
No.
Exhibit number 27. Is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is displayed in exhibit 27?
It's basically a photo of the same room from the opposite corner, looking back towards the staircase. It depicts the entertainment center that I just described on the wall that was out of view from the previous photograph. It's from a distance, but you can see the items on top of that entertainment center, including what we call container number 2.
So that Jimmy Choo bag is now visible in this photograph toward the right-hand side. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's I guess the dark blue object with the handle raised up.
And exhibit 28, is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is shown in that photograph?
This is a photograph that's inside the room facing south, the south half of the room, including the bed, the entertainment center on the left, including container number 2, which is a Jimmy Choo bag, container number 3,
A
which is
Jimmy
the
Choo
bright
bag.
pink Under Armour backpack.
Bad Weather Biker says, Ricada Law, you know more
Container
about
number 4
sword
is not
fighting with
visible anymore
Camelot.
because the pub table and the video game blockage view.
No,
If you know, you know.
I think it's been previously discussed, there's substantial amount of human remains in each of those 4 containers. As you were going through this scene and photographing it, are you making any observations about the floor, about the bed and other items in the room as to the existence of human remains, blood, things of that nature?
I was.
And what did you observe?
So I learned from detectives talking to her that this was believed to be the location that body was cut up. Found it kind of remarkable that there's no blood on I didn't observe any blood on the carpeting. There is later determined to be a significant amount of blood on the top of the mattress and the comforter that's on top of it. The carpeting doesn't extend all the way to the wall. There's a portion of concrete on the other side of the bed that the bed partially covers. You'll see what appears to be dried blood and partial pieces of bodily tissue in that area around the bed on the far side out of view. There, you can't tell from this point of view, but there's also what appears to be red substance bodily tissue on the Jimmy Choo bag. The pink backpack, when looking closely at it, you can tell that there's a dark liquid seeping through the bottom, which was presumably blood based on what we found inside. And then on closer examination of the tote bag, the blue tote, you'll see what appears to be blood or dry blood around it.
Is it fair to say that aside from what's found in the containers, there's not a lot of outwardly visible blood or
Cheers
human
to you at
tissue
the sock.
material that's readily visible in the remainder of the room?
Yes, I walked through this room initially when I got there, and I did a kind of a quick lap looking for a person. And some of these items didn't come into focus until taking a closer look with a decent flashlight and looking at a closer level at these items.
And is this now exhibit 29 on the screen?
It is.
And what is shown in exhibit 29?
This is from the north wall looking back towards the front, I guess the right side of the bed. The east side of the bed with the depicting primarily the black and pink Under Armour backpack, which we refer to as container number 3.
And exhibit 30, is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
What is exhibit 30?
essentially a close-up of that backpack, container number 3.
And Detective, did you, along with the medical investigators, open that backpack?
We did.
And what was found inside there?
Inside of this backpack, there's human remains, including small parts remains and a larger part of human remains, some of which were laying loose inside the backpack, some of which were wrapped inside of like a plastic shopping bag.
Were chunks of meat never gave.
And, Exhibit 31, is that now depicted on the screen?
Where's the blood? A lot of the blood was cleaned
is.
up. She did
And what is shown in Exhibit
allegedly
31?
and accusedly
There's
did a lot of the
of
cutting
things on here that
in and near the
this
shower
photo
drain. Used the
captured,
water to
uh,
clean it up.
container number 2, which is the blue backpack. The container captured some Clorox wipes that we found pertinent to this investigation, along with a shout bottle, which covered a chain. It captured what
She also used
I
Shout.
recognized to be a methamphetamine.
This is just a
type,
great
crystal
ad
meth
for
type,
Shout, by the way.
just in front of the Clorox Peach bottle. And then to the right of that is what I would refer to as a gem baby, or I'm sorry, gem baggie, that had a substance in it.
And you indicated that you spent 4 years in the drug task force.
Oh,
Through your training and experience
Well,
in
Jim,
both
baby,
in the
no
drug
big
task
deal.
force and subsequently with the investigative
Stuff your meth in a baby.
division, have you had an opportunity to come into contact with methamphetamine?
I did.
And you're familiar with not only the drug itself, but also the items that are used to ingest it?
I am.
And you believed, based on that training experience, that
Yeah, how
was
many
a
times have you
pipe
even
consistent
done
with meth
meth?
use and a gem baggie consistent with a small amount of methamphetamine?
That's correct.
Were those items collected?
They were.
Were they later field tested?
I later did, yes.
And what was the result?
So I removed the contents of the substance in the green gem baggie that's depicted here.
Oh,
It was,
explain this. This will be good.
Approximately 0.21 grams
Uh-huh.
crystal substance that I recognized to be crystal methamphetamine. I used a Marquis reagent field test, and it indicated the presence of methamphetamine.
Which field test did you use? And what was the
So
indicator?
you indicated we've got the drug paraphernalia, the suspected drugs, there's some cleaning products, the Jimmy Choo
So there's
bag.
not one test. There's like
Did you
63
indicate
of
that there
these
was a
reagent
chain
tests
located in this
that
photograph
test
as
for
well?
different substances. Because you
It's hard to
can't
see.
like throw it
probably
in
from a
one
distance,
liquid and
but
be like,
underneath
oh, it's meth or weed or
the,
whatever. You
tip
have
over
to
shelf,
test for a specific thing with a
bottle on the right
specific
side
bag.
the
And it has a
dresser, there is
specific process typically that needs to be followed.
Dog's choker chain.
And the reason is because
Underneath
some of the different reactions
And
look
Exhibit
like
32,
something
is that
else.
now displayed on the screen?
It is.
And what's shown in Exhibit 32?
That is a close-up. It's a photograph of a close-up of the choker chain that was underneath that shell bottle with a placard for reference.
There also, what's on the far left of that picture?
It's
on the
glasses,
bottom?
homie.
See a pair of sunglasses or a pair of like glasses.
And that chain was
No,
collected subsequently
2.1
by the Greenway Police
grams.
Department?
Photo Viper, not
was.
20 grams. 2.1 grams, I think he said.
And Exhibit 33. What is depicted in Exhibit, or is 33 now displayed on the screen?
It is.
And what's depicted in Exhibit 33?
This would be the same.
Johnny
choker
Hoot, no
chain
particular questions.
presented out on a clean piece of brown paper for display for photographing.
And that item was collected, you indicated, by the Greenway Police Department?
It was.
I think that there are. All right. I'll move on with the photos, actually. Exhibit 30. Well, actually, no, I'm going to show it. You have an evidence handling kit with you, Detective?
Wait, did he say 0.21 grams? So 210 milligrams? I thought he had said 2.1 grams, but maybe I missed it.
Lights back on?
Detective, I'm showing you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 8. Do you know what that is?
This is an evidence bag that is marked as Exhibit 8. That is initialed, and it has a Green Bay Police evidence code sticker to reference the dog choker collar chain we've just discussed.
So the bag itself has a description. Does it also list an evidence number that was associated with it?
It does.
And what is that?
The description is a silver dog choke collar P chain located under shell bottle, Exhibit 13 on TV. That's all it displays. I know that it says on TV stand. It has a case number of this case, and then it has the exhibit number 543024.
Did you say 13 or 23?
It's referring to Exhibit 23, and then it has our categorized exhibit number as well.
Okay, and the Exhibit 23, does that coincide with the placard?
It does.
I would ask that you open that if you could, display it for the jury.
Wesley, 1924 says, remember, kids, this is what happens when you have premarital sex every time. True. Adam says, I can't believe this woman is 25. She looks like a 40-year-old who's lived a hard life. Meth. Not even once.
And then could you take it and simply display it for the jury?
Can you please place that around your neck for the jury? Please tug on it a little bit and say,
Thank you.
Thanks, Big Daddy.
I'll give you a moment to put it back up and seal it up.
Can you start huffing and sit in an obedient pose for me? Yeah, thank you. I don't know what this prosecutor's into.
And to save time, I'll not ask you about the other evidence, but or the other chain that was located. But was there in fact a second chain located on scene?
There was.
And did you have a chance to handle that item as well, or view it closely?
Tell me about your handling of it.
Closely, and then forensic specialist Andre and Chernesky collected it.
And did that chain appear to be substantially similar to the one that you just opened and located?
It appears to be a very similar choker collar chain. I did notice that the second chain, which was on the pub table next to the Pac-Man game, the chain was actually not loose on both ends. It was actually closed shut, looped through.
And we'll return to the photographs. If we could, Judge, with the lights again. Thank you. 34. It's Exhibit 34 now displayed on the screen.
It is.
And what is depicted in that photograph?
It's kind of a top-down view of the Jimmy Choo bag and the other items on that entertainment center.
You
Okay.
indicated human remains were found in that bag.
They were.
Do you know what other items were found in that bag?
Yeah, when Dr. Trinket arrived, he took the bag down onto the floor. He removed a bunch of plastic bags, like shopping bags, numerous plastic shopping bags. Also in that bag was human remains, small pieces of human remains. And then there was like a red stain, which appeared to be blood stained Lysol wipes. They look just like the Lysol wipes that you saw on the container on the shelf. And then there were 3 kitchen knives that appeared to match the same block from the upstairs kitchen in that bag.
Then Detective Exhibit 36, if you could pull that one out.
I have it.
Is that now depicted on the screen in short order?
It is.
And what is contained in Exhibit 36?
So that is the loose paper shopping bags that were packed inside the Jimmy Choo bag, along with what appear to be wipes that are red stained.
I mean, how can you even call this evidence?
So this is
That
what
Who
removed
doesn't
from the
have a
Jimmy Choo
bag full of black
this was
Clorox
removed from
wipes
the
and
Jimmy Choo
plastic
bag
bags?
after the human remains were taken out by the doctor?
The human remains
It
were
was Kool-Aid.
commingled inside these bags, so
Strawberry
the doctor would
Fanta.
reach in, take out either remains or the bags, and he was collecting the bags and the wipes, and then he was also collecting the remains separately.
So he would take the remains and then leave the bag and the wipes for you to take.
That's correct.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Wayfaring broad, that's not the guy. That guy's all in one piece. I'll post these fake pictures in my chat. I think so people are commenting on her looks and her behavior and stuff. Remember, like, there's a subtle strategy to try and show that she's fucking insane.
All right, Detective, I'm now showing you what have been marked as Exhibits 37, 38, and 39.
Danielle, I agree. This queen needs to be protected from the government.
Those photographs appear to accurately reflect items that you collected on that date at the Stony Brook residence.
They do.
I would ask for permission to publish those as well, Your Honor.
No objection to exhibits 37 through 39. No objection to publication.
Right, you can go ahead and publish them.
And Exhibit 37, is that now on the screen?
It is.
What is depicted?
I mean, look at the gristle on that
It's
thing.
one of the knives in the
Ugh.
Jimmy Choo bag. It appears to be a bread knife out of the kitchen block.
Were you able to make any specific observations about that knife?
I mean, the obvious observation was the red tissue.
Objection to the obvious
staining
comment,
on the
Your
handle
Honor.
and
Please
on the blade.
instruct the
One
witness
thing
to
I
stop
particularly noticed,
editorializing.
Was for a serrated bread knife that the sharp pointed part of the knife were virtually ground down.
It's made for bread, not
Dulled, if you
bones,
will.
baby.
So that is a knife that was serrated, is that correct?
Yes.
And what do you mean by ground down?
Being familiar with a bread knife, you know, it's a large serrated knife to cut bread, and it's the pointy ends are shallowed, more flattened.
20, 24 layers to go. My bread knife
And
is
Exhibit
serrated.
38.
Oh, holy shit. I'm
Have it.
sawing
And
through
is it now depicted on the
bone.
screen?
My bread knife
It
was
is.
What is shown in that
serrated.
photograph?
So that appears to me, these two knives were taken out of the Jimmy Choo bag. It appears to be what I would describe as a kitchen paring knife. The blade appears bent. And then there is what appears to be like a kitchen steak knife out of the block with the tip busted off. The handles are stained red. And there's some dried red material on the blade. as well.
I'm going to very briefly jump ahead, but as part of your work on this case, did you attend the autopsy in this case?
I wonder
I
why
did.
she wasn't able to get through them
And
with
do you
those
know
paring
if any,
knives.
evidentiary items were collected from the autopsy that you observed that were consistent with these knives?
Yes.
And what is that?
One specific thing that was collected by the doctor was a metal tip taken out.
That
The remains.
And based on, did you get a chance to observe that?
I don't recall specifically observing it, but he described it as consistent with this.
Dr. Tranquito was present on the scene when you collected these knives as well, is that right?
He was.
And then exhibit 39. Is that now
Just a
depicted on the
tip.
screen?
It is.
And what is shown in that photograph?
That's showing the 3 knives set down for display for a photo after they're taken out of the Jimmy Choo bag.
Wait, what just
That appears to
happened?
be the opposite sides of them.
That was
the
in
knives.
court. That was not me peeing into a bottle. Lily von Stupp. Thank you, Lily, for having that name. Made me so happy. Bullshit bottle wizard. I just had a basement drain installed in my vault. I just pee into that.
Also accurately depict the scene as you observed it on February 23rd.
They do.
I'd like permission to publish, Your Honor.
I've seen exhibits 40 through 42, showed those to my client. I've showed all these pictures to my client. We're not going to object to those exhibits and no objection to publication.
Right, you can go ahead and publish them.
Slight waddle in the walk like the. I see.
And
Those fucking aliens in
Detective,
Fifth Element
what
made me hate that
is-
movie. I
is
hated
Exhibit 40
those
now on the
fat,
screen?
weird, dumpy, egg-looking aliens.
Yes.
and what does 40 depict?
40 is a photo of the north end of the finished basement. If you're standing with your back to where the bed was in the room, it depicts what I would describe as like a pub table with the arcade game. There is a choker chain on top of the pub table.
Then Detective, Exhibit 42 is that now on the screen?
I wonder if she even knows where she is. I think she's just juiced up
What is
right now.
depicted in Exhibit 42?
This is that pub chain placed on a paper bag and measured for display for the photograph.
And was that item also collected by Green Bay Police Department?
It was.
That's the chain that you described earlier as being consistent with the chain that was shown to the jury?
Yes.
Is this consistent with the size of a chain that would fit around someone's neck you would describe as a bitch? My God, man, stop eating cheese curds.
I'm now showing you exhibits 43 through 47.
I may be bad, but I'm perfectly good at it. Chicken Noble, when they said it was a choke chain, I understood it to be a choke chain, but it looks like it's just
Those also
actually a
accurately
chain
depict the scene
that
as you
would go on
observed
like
it
a
on February
wallet or
23rd,
keys in the
2022.
90s.
They do.
And permission to publish, Your Honor.
You may.
Is
No,
Exhibit 43
Ryan, the editor,
now
I
on
mean,
screen,
the Fifth
Detective?
Element, the good aliens
is.
look
And
like
what is
eggs.
depicted in that exhibit?
This would be the west end of the bed that's closer to the wall.
Sing that as Elmo. Next
Um,
karaoke stream, I'll do an Elmo cover of Rihanna's
On the bed, you
S&M.
can see the pillow, and there's a multicolored comforter. It's red, white, and tan. There is what we referred to as container 4. It's the kind of a top-down look at the light blue tote. With items on top of it that conceal what's underneath it.
And is there any potential or suspected blood staining depicted in this photograph?
Yes, you can see what appears to be red staining, which appears to be blood. On the left side of the red, white, and I believe it's blue comforter. There's some red staining that appears in front of the pillow.
Hey, what's
and
up,
some
American
down
Legend?
lower.
How you doing?
There's what appear to be blood drops.
And Exhibit 44, is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
What is shown in
Is
Exhibit
poutine
44?
popular in Wisconsin?
This is
Poutine
essentially a
is just
top-down,
fat with a little bit of carb. Yes, of course it
View
is.
of what we refer to as container 4. It's the light blue tote. I had added that there, if you look to the left of it, there's a brown paper laid on the ground. And the purpose of that was to start to remove the items on top and then place them on the brown piece of paper to later examine, so that we weren't moving them to the floor.
So the items that are on top
Bobby
of the
says she got
tote,
high and played
does
Hackman.
this photo depict them
Nikita, you
as
think
they
people
were
in
when you arrived
Wisconsin
on
are
scene?
going to stop eating
Yes.
cheese?
And then the item to
Great
the
state of
left, the
Wisconsin does
brown
not apologize for its
paper that's
cheese.
placed on the floor, that's something you added.
Yeah, I placed that for the purpose of removing those items to the paper covering the floor so we could look at them later.
Red one
Exhibit
says that
45,
chain is what
that
used
now
to
depicted
strangle a
on the
vegan.
screen?
The guy was a true biatch.
It is.
And what is shown in Exhibit 45?
That is showing the blue tote that we've been discussing, some red material on the front, and then that is, I guess, a very limited view of the remains that are inside the
Chaotic Frosty, I have
container.
no
Is it fair
particular
to say that a
plans.
substantial amount of human remains were recovered from the inside of the tote?
Yes,
Exhibit 46, is that now displayed on the screen?
it is.
And what is depicted in Exhibit 46?
We moved the multicolored comforter and observed a cellular phone, and then some larger areas of what appear to be blood staining.
In Exhibit 47, is that now depicted on the screen?
It is.
And what is shown in that photograph?
Well,
just showing the items that were on the bed
Evidence is
moved
what's being shown.
to the left and exposing what appeared to be a larger area of red staining that appears to be blood. The cell phone is still there, but we placed a placard to memorialize that exhibit number for later collection.
Detective Scanlon, were efforts made to try to determine whether or not any of the suspected blood materials seeped through that mattress?
Yes.
And what was done?
I later took a box cutter and I cut a portion of the top of the mattress to see how far the blood
Dominique
seeped
says
into the mattress.
The judge
Do you
looks
know
like the
about
real
how
life
far it
Dr.
did?
Heinz Doofenshmirtz from
cut it open,
Phineas and Ferb kind
Under
of
the
does.
top mattress, there's like a foam underlayment. The blood seeped.
It's a
where I cut
guiltinator.
A little over maybe an inch or so into the mattress.
Law Kong Express
Where
is
the
Michael
mattress
Gravely.
was
This is
that
what evidence looks
Top
like. Free
mattress,
Zachariah
if I
Anderson.
recall correctly, it looks like there's one mattress and two box springs. Is that right?
That's correct.
And did you lift up the first mattress to see whether blood had soaked through the bottom of that mattress?
We did.
And did you observe any blood having soaked through that top mattress?
I didn't observe any blood in the box spring below it. No. Below that stain, no.
What was that scene where it's like sometimes I get a little crazy? Oh, that was in Don't Be a Menace. See, Taylor Schabusiness reminds me of that. Run, motherfucker. If you haven't seen Don't Be a Menace, God, it's a great movie. Sometimes I can get a little crazy. Okay, sorry. That's what happened. That's what happened. Was that Loke Dog? That was Loke Dog who had that one. Whew. Yeah, leaving soon. Like, I have to end this stream in 2 minutes. Sorry, guys. I got to roll out. Look, Good Logic and Legal Vices are both covering this trial. I'd fully encourage you guys to pop over onto either of their streams, show them some love. I got to go because I have to leave my house right in 3 minutes, which means I got to go in less than 2 so I can get the hell out of here with the keys and go. So I will catch you guys tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Make sure you check out my locals for free so you can follow along with the stream announcements and all that shit with the crazy trial stream. If you have not gone to ricadalaw.locals.com, please do. You can follow for free. You don't have to subscribe or anything. And just get those announcements. I also try to get them up on Twitter, but they always go up on locals first. So catch you guys later. I hope you will enjoy the rest of these trial streams. We'll see you tomorrow. Tell your friends, kidnap some people, hand them an Obama phone and make them watch the trial on there. You know, only let them free when we're all done.
Likewise,
catch you guys next time.
What you observed
Peace.
at Stony Brook residence.
Peace. See you then. No outro because I don't have time for it. Catch you guys later. Peace.